The time is 5:01 p.m. It is Monday, December 6th, and I'm going to call this special City Council meeting to order. With the City Secretary, please call the roll.
Mitchell.
Here.
Coach.
Here.
Ellison. It's on there. He's just muted.
Yeah, he's here.
Okay. Flores Kale. Here.
Present.
Rizzo.
Present.
Bradshaw. Here. Tobias.
Here.
All right, all members present, we have a quorum. Next up, citizen comments period. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak on any item? Seeing no one in the room, I will close citizen comments. Next up, executive session.
Yes, ma'am. I got it. Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, the City Council reserves the right to convene into executive sessions from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The City Council may convene into executive session pursuant to any lawful exceptions contained in Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, including any or all of the following topics: 1, pending or completion litigation, or seek the advice of the city attorney pursuant to Section 551071, Center Street Village, Limestone Creek PID, BB Road PUD, Opal Lane TERS, Honeywell Agreement, NBFR Development, extended alcohol sales hours, downtown PUD, contingency for park construction. 2, possible purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate pursuant to Section 551072. Number 3, personal matters pursuant to Section 551074. And number 4, convene into executive session pursuant to Section 55107 Texas Government Code to deliberate regarding the offer of economic incentives to one or more businesses prospects to the city seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the city. Project Phoenix, Project Zest, Project Just Peachy, Project Fire Engine Red, Project Deep Golden, Project Fresco, Project Black Coral, Project Goldfish, Project Fire Engine Red, Project Deep Golden, Project Wild Strawberry. We are now in executive session.
Are you ready? We're good to go. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting back to order. Council recessed at approximately 6:30 p.m. to go to the park to take photographs, doing a ribbon cutting, so I wanted to note that as we call the meeting back to order. There was no action taken during executive session. There will be no action taken now. We have 2 Chapter 380 agreements. I'm going to bring both those up together on the special meeting. Approve a Chapter 380 agreement for economic development incentives for Project Phoenix, and approve a Chapter 380 agreement agreement for economic development incentives for Project Zest. Ms. Torres.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Diana Torres, Director of Economic Development, for the record. We have 2 agreements before you tonight that we are seeking approval. I'll start with Project Phoenix first. This Project Phoenix is an aerospace advanced manufacturing company that is currently located in Austin and has outgrown their facility. This company will be growing to 71 employees, will generate property taxes, taxes on machinery and equipment, and sales tax. It is also a target market company in advanced technologies and manufacturing. They're looking at the Hayes Commerce Center The building will be 50,000 square feet. And we are looking at a 4-year rebate that would start at 85%, reducing 20% annually for 4 years. So it'd be 85%, 65%, 45%, and then 25%. And then the 5th year would be 0. They would go back to paying everything. And then the really attractive data point here on this company is the average pay is $79,000.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Those are exciting numbers. So it's always good when we're able to achieve that high of wages as we recruit. Did you do Project Zest as well?
I can do that one real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so Project Zest is an area restaurant that is looking at locating in Kyle. Z Tejas Southwestern Grill will be owner, developed, and occupied. They are looking at a pad on the Endeavor property, which is the Dry River District, and it would be just south of the Aspen Dental that is already constructed. They are looking at a 3-year sales and property tax rebate. And this would be the first restaurant that is would be passed under the restaurant incentive.
That's wonderful. Does anybody have any questions or comments regarding Project Zest? Motions?
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Motion to approve Project Phoenix and Project Zest.
Second?
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Coach, seconded by Councilmember Tobias. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councilmember Florescale.
I just want to say thanks to the economic team for working so hard. There's no way that we could get the projects done that we do if it wasn't for you and your team. So just a big shout out to you guys and for all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The other items posted we're not going to take up. Motion to adjourn. All right, we are adjourned. We're going to take 3 minutes so that we can wait until 7 o'clock, and then we'll call our regular meeting to order. The time is 7:03 p.m. It is Monday, December 6th, and I'm going to call this regular city council meeting to order. Would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the city secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell,
Here.
Coach,
Here.
Ellison,
Present.
Flores Kale,
Here.
Rizzo,
Present.
Bradshaw,
Here.
Tobias.
Present.
All right, 7 members present. We have a quorum. Next up, approval of the minutes. Councilor Tenorio. Tobias. Gosh,
It's okay.
bad start.
It's okay. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for City Council special meeting November 16th and the regular scheduled meeting as well for that day.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Tobias, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kale, that we approve the minutes for November 16th. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, citizen comments period. At this time, we ask anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item to please do so. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that you direct those comments to the mayor and council. We also ask that you fill out a citizen comments form and submit that to either myself or the city secretary. I do not have anyone registered to speak. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward? Oh, Tracy Shield. Sorry, it was under a pile.
Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I would like to speak once again in regards to the Arts Commission. While I am very, very happy to see this maybe come to fruition, I still have issues in regards to the makeup of this commission, where the members, the voting members, are all, quote, experts or have expertise in the field. And the one community member who might just come up and enjoy art and want to show art for art's sake within, the community, doesn't have a vote. And that just upsets me. The other thing is that this particular one has in its makeup another non-voting council member as part of it, which I think is great. I think all boards and commissions should have a council member as part of the board or commission. However, not just one. It needs to be an all or none. And if you're gonna do it for one, you need to do it for all. That's it, thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward and speak? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close citizen comments. It is now closed. Next up, City Manager report.
Mayor Council Scott Sellers, City Manager. For the record, I thought I would come forth this evening because I would like to officially introduce our new Assistant City Manager. So, Amber, if you want to come on up here, I'm going to embarrass her a little bit. We've talked about Amber a couple of times here, but this is her first day, so the hazing has begun. So I'm going to read just a little bit of a bio. So Amber Lewis holds a Bachelor of Science in Political Science and Public Administration and a Master's degree in Public Administration with an emphasis in local government from the University of Nebraska. So we won't hold that against you. She has a passion for local government and has valuable work experience as a grant writer, city planner, finance director, assistant city manager, and assistant city administrator. Amber just left the city administrator position in the city of Rollingwood, where she oversaw policy direction and executive leadership for the effective operations of municipal services of the city. She grew up in Nebraska, so she bleeds red, I guess, go Huskers, and found her way to Texas in 2013 by way of her husband, Brent, who is a native Texan and currently the city manager for the city of Wood Creek. In her free time, Amber likes to take walks with their rescue pup, Cheyenne, travel and spend time with her family, and nice warm baths, apparently. I just added that last part. So anyway, we're so excited to have Amber, so please help me welcome Amber Lewis.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilor. Just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I'm so excited to be in Kyle. There's just not another place better in the United States, in the nation, in the world. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited to be part of Team Kyle, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Awesome. Amber will be overseeing our development services, which is community development, economic development related departments. So we're really excited for that. All right. Next on the manager's report, we have our December 16th city council meeting. So this is instead of the December 21st meeting to give everyone a little time off the week of the holiday. So that will be a special meeting per council rules, but we'll have several items on there for you. And with that, I'm going to turn the next item over to, is it still me? Oh, okay, sorry, this one's still me. So Planning and Zoning Commission, we do have, and we are trying to make a big push for a couple of vacancies that we have on the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we've worked well with our communications department. We're trying to put out a bunch of media on this now. So we'd like to invite anybody in the community who is interested to please get on our website, cityofkyle.com/BC, and apply for our 2 vacant positions. So more information will be coming forth on timing, et cetera, but those positions are available. With that, now I'd like to introduce Diana Torres.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Diana Torres, Economic Development Director for the record. I just wanted to give a little recap on the Get Hired job fair that I mentioned at the last meeting. It was held a couple weeks ago. We had 30 companies that were there on site with hundreds of jobs available to hire on site if appropriate. We had 48 people show up the entire day. So workforce and pipeline continues to be the #1 recruiting question, challenge that everyone, not just in Central Texas, but across the country are having right now. So we will keep plugging along, having these kinds of events and working with companies to have hiring events specifically to fill the positions that we have open here. And they cover the realm of positions open. So if anybody is looking for a job right now, they could find one, I promise. But just wanted to give you a little recap of that event.
Thank you.
Diana, you've got one more item.
Sorry, I don't know how I forgot about this one. We have an announcement that went out on Friday afternoon. A new business that is coming to town, Nitro Swim, is going to be going in Plum Creek in the Area 10, which is just northeast of like the Kohlers Crossing and the 1626 intersection. So we're excited to have them breaking ground, and they're going to be offering swimming lessons and swim team. And so it's another amenity that is coming to the city of Kyle that we have not had before. So we welcome Nitro Swim to Kyle.
Thank you.
Great.
Very excited to have them.
All right, now we have Mariana Espinosa.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Mariana Espinosa, Parks and Recreation Director. As you know, we had our Santa's arrival and lighting of the holiday lights at Mayor Kyle Hartson Park last Wednesday, and our awesome marketing and communications department made a video. So here you go.
Three, 2, 1, light that square!
So 1 year ago, December 1st, 2020, we approved plans to revitalize this park. And today, 1 year later, we are opening it up for the lighting because that was important to us, because we knew it was important to the community.
The park was originally created in 1880 and was originally called the City Square Park. In 2011, the park was renamed to Mary Kyle Hartson Park in honor of the city's first female mayor. Standing here in downtown Kyle brings back a lot of memories. Councilmember Tobias and I, as kids, would ride our bikes to the square here to meet our friends on summer afternoons. We used to hang out, play, have a good time. I recall a very busy and bustling downtown. Kyle experienced its first growth in the 80s, then the 90s, 2000, 2010, and now we're experiencing exponential growth, unprecedented growth. That's right, the secret is out. Kyle's a great place to live and raise your family. As we know, as cities begin to grow in different directions, sometimes their historic downtowns are forgotten. It's kind of sad. But thanks to some special citizens, some very important people, Chamber of Commerce, our City Council, and others, we are now not going to see that happen here in the city of Kyle. There's not going to be any boarded up windows here in this town. We're going to revitalize this downtown. We're going to bring more people to this area. We're going to remember how important this area is to us.
And seeing that we have a lot of new folks in the crowd, a lot of you all will see this as the downtown square park, and that's all you'll know. You won't have seen what it was before and all the many years that it was before. And we are grateful for that. We're grateful for the past councils that helped redo the old city hall, the train depot, the things that we have done here in this area to get us to this point today. And so we're glad for our new residents to come along. We're grateful for our long-term residents, and we're so happy to build a community because we need common unity to have a community, right? And so that's what we're all here for.
As a lifelong resident of Kyle, I have waited a long time to see this park upgraded. Words cannot explain how happy I feel right now. I cannot begin to show the joy that I feel right now seeing this project come to fruition.
So then I think the next slide is going to lead into the 25 days of Christmas. And so every night we have staff out there during the month of December. The activities run from 6 to 9 p.m. So for example, tonight we have free Santa photos until 9 p.m. and also live music out there tonight. On tomorrow we have Taco Tuesday. On Wednesday we have Winter Wonderland Wednesday with a snow machine. On Thursday, Santa, and those ones are paid Santas, with an awesome backdrop. And then on Friday, we have live music again. So we have one more free photo op with Santa, and that's on December 13th. Other days during the month, we have an awesome background with Christian photography doing paid photo opportunities. So that is the 25 days of Christmas, from 6 to 9 until the 23rd. Well, the lights will be on still until January, but we'll have activities till the 23rd. I think we have one more slide. And then next week, next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the Parks Department and the Police Department have partnered together because our fire department will not be able to do a drive-through with Santa Claus this year. So our awesome police department will be taking Santa around town on 3 different days. One night will be the west side of town. Another night will be the north or the southeast, and then the northeast. And those routes and schedules will be posted later this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. Councilor Rizo.
Mariana, I just want to take a minute to thank you and your team. I don't know if a lot of people even know the amount of work that y'all put into decorating that park, but due to construction, we were on a really short window to get decorated. Mariana, her team, Benito, all of the Parks Department, I think it was a collaborative effort as well with other departments, and I just want to thank y'all for all the hard work, the late nights, all the time that y'all spent out there, the weekends for decorating the park. The fruits of y'all's labors is evident outside. The people, the families taking pictures out there, enjoying what this downtown Kyle really is. I never thought I'd see that come to fruition one day. It's beautiful out there. I know as a council we've decorated that park, but now to see what we've done as a council, it's really amazing. But it couldn't even happen without all y'all's hard work and dedication. So thank you for all y'all do. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, pretty much every single department in the city has contributed in some way or another, especially environmental services and trades, facilities, and public works, in addition to part. So thank you.
Councilmember Flores-Kale.
Thank you. I just want to say it was such an amazing night. That ribbon cutting was it felt almost as good as the Veterans Day Parade. And so I hope we continue to do stuff like this. And with that said, I think we definitely need more food vendors because everybody was eating dinner there and everybody was more than willing to wait 30 minutes for a hamburger. So hopefully, I think there's kind of a limit on how many food vendors they like, and maybe we can lift that so we can get everybody happy and healthy and fed. Because I'd like to see more of these, and I think in order to do that, we're going to have to provide additional, and not just food vendors, but just amenities altogether. But other than that, it was great.
Mayor Pro Tem. Oh. Anyone else? All right.
I will jump in just to give a shout out to comms. Is Grant back there? Grant, if you can hear me, that was incredible video. Your video is getting better and better with each event. Good job. Good job to all.
All right, thank you. Next we have Ms. Jennifer Holm about the runoff.
So the runoff election day is tomorrow for District 5. There are 3 locations that voters can still vote at tomorrow between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Kyle City Hall, the Hayes Precinct 2 office, and Buda City Hall.
And finally, Ms. Sandra Drain, Director of Human Resources.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Sandra Duran for the record. I am pleased to announce that, because we continue having great events like, the one that we just had, my recruiting piece is getting easier. So thank you for being my recruiters. I appreciate that. Welcome to Team Kyle. Since the last council meeting is Angel Perez. He's from Parks and Trails Technician. Jonathan Duran, our engineer technician. We have Robert Fellon, Jeffrey Castillo, and Nathaniel Matthews, and they're all 3 for the street maintenance construction crew. kudos to the promotions that we have here. We have Officer Riley Dickens. He's been promoted to Police Sergeant. Belinda Frazier has been promoted to the Lead Business Maintenance. So that is awesome. That's great for her. We're so proud of her. And Will Atkinson is the Interim Senior Planner for the Community Development. And Detective Roy Jones has been assigned to the KPD Narcotics Investigation. So we're proud of his duties as well. And last but not least, we're very, very excited to know that Samantha has been nominated for the second time for the 2021 Hays County Women's of Leadership. And Samantha, thank you for all your hard work, and it shows because you've been nominated several times, so that speaks a lot. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Congratulations.
That concludes my report.
All right. All right, next up, agenda item number 4, nomination for the Ethics Commission, Kassie Anderson. Councilor Rizo.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just want to give you a little background on Ms. Anderson. Ms. Kassie Anderson is a lifelong resident of Kyle, graduated from Hayes High School, attended the University of Texas, Boston, where she received a Bachelor's of Business Administration and Accounting. Shortly after Mrs. Anderson graduated from UT, she started working at Farm Credit Bank of Texas, where she's been currently working there for 27 years. Her career has been mainly in accounting and doing some financial reporting as well at the bank for over 10 years now. She says it's been a very rewarding and accomplished career, and is glad to be part of the agricultural industry and being able there to provide them some financial support. And just wanted to say, as we are leaving our small rural farming community, it's great that we still have some ranching and farming in the area, and any support that you bring them is great. But I just want to thank Ms. Anderson for saying yes when I asked her to be appointed to the Ethics Commission, and I look forward to the council asking some questions. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Councilor Tobias.
I do. Hello, Ms. Anderson.
Hello.
Hi there.
Anderson.
Hi. I just wanted to let the council know I had a good conversation with Ms. Anderson this morning, and asked her what her idea was for serving on city, and she expressed to me her desire to serve the community and to be part of a process to where if there was ever an issue with ethics or anything like that, that she'd be very fair, and that she would be very open to look at any kind of facts that need to be presented to her. And so just having that conversation made me feel very confident in her nomination. And again, like Councilman Rizo said, she does work for a financial institution that deals with ranchers and farmers. As you know, we are a farming community, so it really makes me feel good knowing we got somebody in that expertise and that's willing to serve in that field and being experienced in looking at detail. So I will support her nomination.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Ellison.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you, Ms. Anderson, for accepting Councilmember Rizzo's invitation to have you as his ethics appointee. So I have not talked to you, so I'll just ask you a couple of general questions. Okay. When Councilmember Rizzo asked you to be his ethics appointment committee member, did you immediately say yes?
I did.
Were you familiar with what the Ethics Commission does?
He explained a little bit about it. They meet, I guess, on a case-by-case basis when anything comes up that's of, I guess something's in question, and we vote on whether, I guess depending on what the case is, whether to move forward with either, I guess, removing somebody from a certain thing or keeping them.
Okay. And how long have you lived in? You said it was the entire time in the city of Kyle?
Yes, I grew up here. Lived in Austin for a little bit and then came back and built a house here in Kyle on the street I grew up on.
Gotcha. And so how long have you been back?
My house was built in 2019.
Okay. Okay. So a couple of years back. That's cool. Well, I just wanted to get a little bit of feel of, that process, how that came about, what your understanding of what the Ethics Commission does. I'd certainly encourage you to review online. We have the details of everything that commission does. So what do you, why did you feel that this was the most appropriate way? You said that your desire was to give back to the community, participate in the community, correct?
Yes, I've been looking for a way to serve the community, and I thought this might be the best way with the job that I have right now. Attention to detail and ethics plays a big role in my career, so I thought this would be a good fit for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Attention to detail, I'm very familiar with that as well. I'm a fellow banker as well, and so I'd certainly understand that attention there. Well, I think it's exciting anytime a resident is willing to participate on our volunteer boards. We have several boards and commissions, and it is important for us to get citizen participation in that. And so I'm always grateful to those that are willing to serve in any capacity on our boards and commissions. So I'm prepared to make a motion to approve Ms. Kassie Anderson as the nomination for the Ethics Commission.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Ellison, seconded by Councilmember Tobias, that we approve Ms. Anderson to the Ethics Commission. Is there further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Kassie.
All right, next up, agenda item number 5, presentation, wastewater treatment plant progress update video. No pressure.
Mayor and Council, Harper Wilder, Public Works Director. I just want to give kudos to Tim Sanford, our division manager, for he moved on me for treatment and operations. He's also over the wastewater treatment plant. Another person for y'all to meet, Robert DeFreitas, is our lead operator out there. Unsung hero, stays at the plant 24/7. Great benefit for the city. But let me tell you a quick deal. Julie and I were out there at the plant. We wanted to kind of walk around, and there's so much construction going on, and just get a good look inside and see all the different stages and what's happening. And Robert and Tim did a great job in explaining that and running through all of that with us. I said, this would be incredible if y'all could provide this to the council in a more condensed version, just to show them what's going on out there, and they can kind of see the whys and whats. So that's what this is all about. And I'll let Tim and Robert come on up, and they can take it away.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tim Sanford, Treatment Operations Manager. So I'm not sure if I can follow up my video with what Mariana had to provide to us, but I get excited about this stuff, so hopefully y'all can too. So as y'all know, this is a big project for us. It's the biggest project I've ever been involved with. I think we have a great team, as Harper's mentioned. We also have Yvonne is here with us. She's our project manager. Yvonne is keeping us on track. The first time I met Yvonne, if you've ever had time to sit and talk with her, she's straight to the point, and it's kept us going in this project and moving us forward. So thank you, Yvonne. So I'm going to go through this quickly, so I don't take up too much of your time. Just a quick overview of the project site. So the new facilities that we are going to be getting they're currently being constructed. The new headworks, and I'm going to take you through as the flow of the water will go through the treatment facility. The new headworks on your top right of the screen, that will go over to a splitter box. We have new aeration basins, new clarifiers. That from the clarifiers will go to a new tertiary facility or the new UV disinfection facility, as noted on the screen. All our solids will go to the new digesters. And then recently y'all have approved a new dewatering facility for us, so that won't be contracted out any longer. There'll be a big revenue savings incurred by doing that. So a nice snapshot of when the construction first started. This is back in August of 2020. And then we can bring you to date. You can just see the impact that the progress at the site that we've made. Again, everything is notated as to what they were in the video. I'll describe in more detail what the process is, and just you'll get a better picture of everything going on. But as you can see, the 87 acres that the city owns here at this site is Much of it's being eaten up by this project. Just kind of gives you a feel for the impact that it has. So in the video, it's hard to get a good feel for what's inside of the Headworks building. So I was able to take a couple pictures. These are the bar screens. These actually go down, I believe, between 30 and 40 feet down into the basins or the channels that the flow's coming into the site. So what those are going to do is those are going to remove any heavy rags, debris, hard hats, pants, any number of things that we get at the wastewater plant. It's you know, it's sometimes it's kind of comedic, but so that's the inside of the Headworks building, and then Grant's going to start the video for us. So looking at the left of your screen, that's the existing line coming into the plant. That's a 30-inch line coming in. That'll tie into an energy dissipating manhole. And just beyond that will be a splitter box. So the new 42-inch interceptor, along with the 30-inch existing, will tie in together there before going into the new Headworks facility. You'll see the placement of the concrete there. That's just the footer for that manhole or splitter box that's going to be placed. This is just panning around to the Headworks building. The screens are 30 feet long, so you'll see the roofs on the top of or hatches on top of the roof. That gives us the ability to pull those out at a later date when needed. So like I said, we're just following the flow line here. From the Headworks facility, we'll move on to the aeration splitter box. At this structure here, that'll give us the ability to send flows based on demands or based on loading of how we want to dictate that to the 3 different facilities we'll be operating under this expansion. We can send those to the old plants or send it to the new plant. This is the new operations building. We're really excited about this. We're going to have a dedicated lab. We won't be working at an MCC room for those who've been out there. Nice office space. It's really going to be something to see. Moving on to the aeration basins. These is just testing taking place right now. It's not been placed and put in service. It's just being filled with water for testing purposes. So all this is aeration basins. To the left, that big structure is a blower building, along with the MCC room for all the controls and electrical associated with not only this expansion, but future expansions. So leaving the aeration basin, it'll fall into this channel here. It'll come up into the clarifier splitter box, and then it'll move over to either one of these two 1A or 1B clarifiers. That just gives you an idea of what the inside of a clarifier looks like. That's something you don't really see too often unless construction or there's an issue. So from this basin, we'll be able to, again, send flows based on the positions of the sluice gates to either one of these clarifiers. From these clarifiers, and I'll let the video pan before I get out of myself. So the next snapshot here, that's just a dump station for internal purposes only. So if we're out cleaning collection systems or anything like that, we can dump here with our own truck. And then moving on, any solids leaving that clarifier are going to go into these digesters here. The purpose of a digester is just to hold your solids until they can be pressed or however you choose to handle them. We will have a dewatering facility, so those will be pressed. And that facility is going to be located between that dump station and this digester here. The construction for that has not started. And also take the time too to thank Jeff Prado. He's on Leon's team, and he does an excellent job for us of taking these photos. The quality is outstanding. So moving on, any water leaving the clarifier that's being sent to the creek is going to go through this facility first. This will be our UV disinfection process. Inside of this structure, you also have non-potable water pumps, which will supply water to the facility just for cleaning purposes, wash down. Your belt press facilities use a lot of water, things like that. Going out of that basin, you have post-aeration before it goes to the creek, just to boost it with a little bit more air before, just to meet permit limits. And then there you can see the new interceptor. Grant, can you pan back just a little bit? Can you stop it and pan back, please? Oh, maybe not.
Not that far.
Too far.
Just so we can see Plum Creek. Keep going, please. Thank you, right there. So that's the new line that's coming into the wastewater facility, that 42-inch line that's going underneath the creek and then coming into the plant facility. The plant is currently on bypass pumping. You can see that established. You can go ahead and roll the video, Grant. The plant is currently on bypass pumping, which you can see set up in the middle of the screen right there. So kudos goes out to my staff, just like Harper said. I can't say that enough. You can see the conditions that we're operating under. This takes effort on everybody's part, not only myself, but Robert, his staff, his ability to train the staff to the point that they're at now where we're doing lab work and process controls in-house and not having to outsource everything and having the lead time that it takes for a company to do that and send us information that we needed yesterday it's invaluable. So, I can't thank him enough. And he's such a humble guy. He's not gonna give himself enough credit. So that was just a pan view of the entire site, just to give you an idea of how big the site really is. So one other thing I wanted to hit on is just the growth that you all know we're experiencing and what we're going to be faced with in the upcoming years. Currently, we're projecting that the next expansion will need to take place by year 2025. We are currently working with not TCEQ, but a consultant firm to get our permit amended so that we have the capacities of 12 million gallons on our permit. We know what our effluent permit limits are going to be, and that we're prepared to work on design most likely as soon as we get done with this expansion. So those things that I just hit on about the permit amendment. The way we plan to phase that, the initial phase after this 4.5 million gallon expansion is going to be going to 9, and then beyond that we'll be going to 12 at a later date, not yet determined. So just give you a feel for what the expansion is going to look like. Everything that's in black and white is currently what's being worked on. Everything in the fluorescent green is planned for the 9 million gallon a day expansion, and everything in the blue is what will be to 12 million gallons per day. And one more thing to hit on, and I'll let you guys go, is the low impact development features that we are working on. We're handling that grant process in-house. TCEQ's obligation is $132,000 that the city will be receiving. We've received some of it, but we're still working on other things. Things associated with that are just native vegetation, rain harvesting. We'll have a bioswale, which will create a nice water feature and a place for people to come and see the plant and not think wastewater and think, really, it's going to be a shack out in the middle of nowhere and it's not going to be real appealing or anything like that. I've got a funny story about that. I've worked in wastewater for over 18 years, and my wife brought me lunch one day, and when she showed up, she was surprised, like, "This is where you work?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's going on?" I thought it was going to be a shack in the middle of the field. It's like, no, it's a nice place. It's a nice place. Sorry, I digress. But this will be a nice facility, as you saw in the picture. We're excited about it. We appreciate all y'all's efforts and all the staff's efforts that have just countless hours. We appreciate it. We really do. And what I hope to bring out of all of this is to stay in compliance, not have any issues in the future, stay ahead of the growth that we're having so that we don't come to you with problems. We come with you to solutions and ways to make things more efficient. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Tim. Councilmember Tobias.
Okay. Oh my goodness. That was impressive. Seriously. Looking at all of that you see back there east of Kyle and just seeing the engineering, the surveying, the technology, and the construction, if at all, knowing all of that's underground and it's covered over and you have all those plants and you have all that those dividers and everything that's all in there. It's just amazing. You guys are doing a great job. I mean, I just seeing it from above and looking down, it's just remarkable. And so the next time I see a little kid playing with Tonka trucks, I'm going to encourage him to keep doing it because, I mean, it's just, amazing. It's stuff that we need. It's a trade that you have mastered in all of you, and I just can't thank you enough for the hard work you're doing. So the real thanks really goes to you guys very much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Florescale.
Thank you. I had the pleasure to meet you in the beginning of my term, and I took a tour of it with Councilmember Ellison, and it was surreal. Like it was big, and it was like very new, and ever since after the tour, I just was so like, I write Yvonne and she gives me updates, and I stopped and talked to her one time when I came to the city hall. She was here, and I don't know if it's because I like the environment or what it is, but what you guys are doing out there is like mind-blowing. I know it's just the process of what it takes and what you guys are doing, because people like me didn't quite understand that there's there's like wastewater and what we do to clean that out and to send it back we send it to Plum Creek, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so the importance of making sure of what we send out there is going to be the best qualities we can have, right? And in the past, we may not have been up to par, but I will say, without a doubt, I feel like our city does the best job it can do. And so this upgrade to this wastewater treatment center is only for the best. It's catching up to the quality of our workers. And so thank you, and thank you to Yvonne, and thank you to Julie. And can I get his name again?
Robert.
Robert. And you literally live out there? Okay. He lives out there. That's impressive.
No more
now, do you ever
dedication
get away? Do you ever want to I gotta go, I can't be at work all the time? Does he do that? Because I'm going to be honest, the last slide that you showed us, for me, was the most exciting because yes, there you go. Because especially if you live out there, you want to have something that feels relaxing, that feels good. Like you said, that feels inviting. And so seeing this, I mean, I think about field trips for kids. I think about, I'm making a plan to come back up there myself to make it much more than just a wastewater treatment center. And that's the beauty of Kyle, is how we take something that can be seen as icky or however you want to describe it, and then you make it this beautiful. So I'm definitely going out there when this is completed, but hopefully within the next 2 months. So good job to the whole Public Works team. We have a great department, and I'm super proud of you guys.
Thank you. And something I should have mentioned and I didn't is the substantial completion is March of 2022. And at that time, we part of TCEQ's LID requirements to meet all our obligations is to hold tours, to advertise this for PR purposes, just to educate people on what we do and things like that, and be able to show them things like water bugs. We just found a water bug in our lab scope, so those are good things. It's exciting. Those are the things we get excited about. I almost put it in here, but I didn't waste too much of y'all's time. But as you can see, and Robert gets more excited about it than I do. So,
Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you. I'm going to try to be quick with this and rapid fire some questions to some of staff. So y'all ready? Okay. So when did we pass the CO bond to approve the funds for the wastewater treatment plant? While you're thinking about that, could we go back to the slide, Grant, where it shows the, and I was really happy that you put this in your slide, the upcoming, what's going to come up. So as far as, yes.
Was it this one?
This area. Yeah, either one. That one's fine. And so this was one of the things I was actually going to ask you some questions about, so I'm glad you put in your presentation. By the way, if you wouldn't mind emailing us this your slide presentation, we'd appreciate that. So the reason why I asked about the time in which we passed the CO bond, I want to say it was probably 2017.
It's been a while. 17. It's been a while.
17? 19. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
19.
it seems like even longer with the pandemic.
Pre-pandemic. That era.
Right, that era. So prior to that, we were at, what did it say? 2 MGD?
3 million gallons a day is what
Three
we're at now.
MGD, so we went up to 4.5.
We're
And
going
now,
to 4.5.
in the next expansion will be to double that to 9.
Yes, sir.
Right? And so, I know some people might not appreciate this, but I think it's important. So 2019, we passed the CO bond to do the expansion from 2 to 4.5. Yet our population has grown from 5,300 people 20 years ago to nearly 60,000 people. So my point in bringing this up, because I appreciate that we're looking ahead because we know these growth rates are continuing to be at the levels they are. And so you already told us one of the questions I was going to ask, when do you anticipate coming back to us probably for another CO bond to expand this even further? And it's 3 years, essentially. And so I appreciate now, my point in all of this is that I appreciate that there's a plan in place and we're moving towards that. We're not denying that the growth is happening. We're not putting blinders on about that. We see the writing on the wall and we know that this is important. This is a very important infrastructure piece for our city. Not many people realize the importance of it, but if it were to go down, we would all realize it and we'd have all kinds of problems. So once again, I second, third, and fourth the gratitude and congratulations on getting this to this part, being your largest project of your professional career. I'm sure this is quite the feather in your hat. I appreciate that we have the expansion already in mind to fill it in. We don't have to go back and redo a lot of different things. And I think it was a great idea. Robert, nice meeting him and everything he was doing there. He's a real MVP there. And I want to say as well to Yvonne, adding her on as a project manager has been a key ingredient as well. So just wanted to kind of talk about that and just remind folks that these things are happening now. And I certainly appreciate that there are plans in place and we're thinking forward. We're not getting caught in a position like we were 2-3 years ago where it's like, okay, now we have to do something and our hands are tied and we've got to just throw it all at the wall. But thank you. I appreciate your presentation tonight.
Thank you.
Like I said, if we could just get the emailed to us.
Definitely.
Definitely, I just wanted to touch on something Councilmember Kell said. I wish she was here right now, but she talked about what we're putting back into Plum Creek is almost as good. Actually, I think what we're putting back into Plum Creek, after speaking to Yvonne, was that we're putting in a better product. We're actually injecting the water with oxygen, and it's great for the wildlife. We're actually putting in better water, cleaner water into the Plum Creek area, so helping the wildlife in the area, thrive in a sense. So definitely I'm excited about everything you're doing down there. So thank you for even thinking about the environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, one thing I wanted to say just to clarify is that, the original project was 33 million approximately, and that generated us 2 million gallons of capacity, but it's not really accurate to think of it in terms of, well, $33 million equals 2 million gallons in capacity, because what we were doing is building out the complete infrastructure for that long-term plan. So when we go to increase from 4.5 to 9, it's not accurate to think that it's going to be necessarily some huge number, because a lot of the buildings and things that we've put in and infrastructure is already in place for that added capacity. I'm sure it'll still be a huge number. I'm not trying to say it won't be a big number, but I've always appreciated that being explained when we start talking about the numbers. So anything else to add? Harper, you stood up. So.
I was going to say, kudos to the engineers involved in this as well. With the design of this plant, everything adds on to each other. So exactly what you just said, here in the future, it's an easy addition to keep adding.
Right.
So it's a good process.
You want to tell a story of Aqua in 2013, 2014? Are we in better shape now than we've been in the past?
Yes, sir. Definitely, night and day.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. All right, anything else?
You just got to get some cute little kids to add to your video.
There you go. That was good. I like the way y'all did that, honestly. That was really good, so thank you.
We will come back in March and have some.
And a random guy shaking his afro. That's all you needed. That's all you needed.
Thank you very much.
All right, next up, agenda item number 6, CIP road projects and consent agenda presentation.
Howard. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. Let's start off with the Heroes Memorial Park. We're at 24% complete. They are forming the memorial honor wall, and they're continuing on the bridge structure, installing that. They had poured sidewalks along the perimeter. You can kind of see them on that view that we've got there. La Verde Park, we're about 20% complete, and they're installing utilities and a pump vault. Apparently they discovered water when they were doing their excavation. Mary Kyle Hartson Park project, it's about 76% complete. All concrete work has been completed. They're still working inside the green covered fence area. They are working on turf and landscaping, decomposed granite trails, and the limestone steps. Apparently the lamp posts and the site furnishings are expected in January. Southside Wastewater Improvement Project, we're about 92% complete. As you can see, we're storing the materials there ready to start working in front of the Murray property and install that line up on Edwards Drive, behind Edwards Drive. I do want to mention that the Edwards Drive project was not part of the original Southside project, so that will require a change order. It's going to be a significant change order. And we also have some other things that we need to add to that project. So we'll probably have 2 large change orders to bring back to council on that project. You got a pretty good report on the treatment plant, so I won't belabor all these notes here that I've got for you, but again, our expected completion date is March of 2022, and the dewatering facility, hopefully have that in place by August of 2022 also. This is a detailed picture that I kind of wanted to share with you. This, from what I understand, this hole's about 45 feet deep. More importantly, that Button Creek 42-inch wastewater line, that's where we're going to tie in that Button Creek interceptor if we can get that thing finished soon. And here's your overall picture that you've seen already. Button Creek interceptor, we're about 71% complete. They've been installing some of the 12-inch reclaimed line. So far, they've installed about 3,500 feet of that 12-inch reclaimed line. They're expecting to complete the bore for that 12-inch line that's going underneath the creek, should be complete this week. And unfortunately, we're still waiting for the supplier to tell us something about that 36-inch pipe that we're still waiting for. Old Post Road, Public Works has completed the water line that we have there. We expect Hayes County to start construction on that intersection next week. Elliott Branch Interceptor, we're about 37% complete. They're finishing the bores under Sledge, and we are heading north on Sledge. We're going to start getting into the neighborhood area. There's going to be a lot of work being done in those areas, so be prepared. We'll probably get some calls. We'll try to work with the citizens as best as we can, but we're installing water, wastewater, and reclaimed water line in those areas. We're also tearing up the streets. There's not many streets there that are very wide, so we'll be taking up the whole street and taking it out and putting it back in. So it's going to be the toughest part of our job. Slimmer and Porter, we just started that project that's right here behind us. Cedar Hills Construction is the contractor, and right now they're starting to clean vegetation and starting to put in their pipe. Roland Lane, they did start that a week or two ago. From what I've found out from the developer, they're hoping to have this open in February. And that's my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you, Leon. Any questions? Councilmember Tobias.
Yes, all right. Very thankful Button Creek Road is going to start getting worked on. I think I sent an email last week. I just had 2 residents' concerns. Right over there by South Lake Ranch entrance, they're going to be redoing the road back there. The questions were, one of them was, will there be flaggers available and residents coming in and out of the entrances between 9 to 3? Those were concerns that were brought up to see how that was going to affect. And number 2 was from a concerned parent, was if there's a lot of layman students that walk back and forth even through the day, some do half-day school, if there's going to be any designated crosswalks that would be available for those students to walk back, because you got the heavy equipment and asphalt's being laid down. I guess those were just two concerns that just came across.
I'm going to have to divert to Harper with Public Works.
I'm trying to answer something
Tell me one more time, please.
Hey, yes, Harper, it happens to do with the entrance to South Lake Ranch. I had a resident reach out to me, ask me how it's going to work during the day. I know you're going to be doing construction 9 to 3.
Yes, sir.
So it's just a matter of like, will there be flaggers there? Are they going to start on one side, the other? I think there's 2 entrances. And then the other one was from a concerned parent saying that, my daughter walks to school. There's going to be heavy construction. And of course, if there's going to be a designated crosswalk for that area.
So, good question. So they're already actually out there flagging, and they're talking back and forth every day. We hear it over our radio nonstop all day long, from 9 to 3. But they're already out there, and depending on where they might be at that particular day, there may not be a designated, this is the one time only place that you will cross, because that's not always the safest place if they have that area torn up, but they will designate an area. They will have people out there that can direct them if need be. So, and I will talk to them. We've talked about all the safety aspects, being with the school there, what we're going to do and not do. So the staff is doubled up, and they're out there all day long watching, mainly for safety as well as the flaggers. So I will express that to them again, though, and the crosswalk afterwards, if, after we get the road done, completed over there, if there's anything that we need to put back, we'll replace that as well.
Okay, no problem at all, because school gets out like around 4:30 or so, and it gets pretty heavy over there, so you already seen it probably today.
Yes, sir.
It gets kind of crazy, so
Yes,
it's
sir.
just a matter of making sure it's all safe, and for residents to get in and out if they need to leave, that's all.
We told, we told the public, sent out to the public the 9 to 3, so we're making every effort we can to be out of there at 3 o'clock.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, appreciate it. Thank you both.
Mayor.
Councilman Rizo.
Leon, I don't know if this question is directed to either you or James, but over at the Mary Kyle Hartson Park, on the southern side of the park, which is right across from the gazebo, we, last week during our rain event, we had some real deep pooling there. I actually took a picture of it. There's a drain just out in the middle of that area right there where the grass is. We actually roped it off with some candy canes. And what I'm wondering is why that drain is there and not tied down into the drainage system somewhere, because it's just sticking out. Someone could trip over it. Worried about a kid getting stuck in there, a small kid, but that drain just doesn't look right being there. It's just an open drain coming out of the ground. Does anybody know?
Yeah, so for the record, James Earp, Assistant City Manager, I can speak to that somewhat. That's the design. It was designed with there to be an outfall right there and for it to sheet flow, because there's no outlet for that stormwater to go to at that part of the park. They looked at several different options of trying to tie into existing storm sewers, but they couldn't get the water back. So the design team designed it that way. Now, with the water puddling, a big issue of that, according to TF Harper, was the irrigation got left on that section because they're having to do it manually at that time. It got left on, so it saturated the ground, and then we had the rain. So they really don't feel that it's likely to see that much water pooling there regularly unless the ground's already saturated before a big rainfall. That said, I asked Carrie and Tommy and Ariel, but I didn't see Jose when we were out there for the ribbon cutting and tree lighting, if there's something else that could be done with that corner. And they're basically all kind of at a loss, and unless and until we do an upgrade to the street and have stormwater under the road back there behind that corner to be able to tie into, ultimately it's going to have to sheet flow somewhere. So that's currently the plan as best as it can be, I suppose.
Okay, because I went out there and looked at it, and right at that corner, we've got a catch basin there that catches flow from the street. I was wondering why we wouldn't have tied into that catch basin.
Yeah, so I mean, the way that I recall the conversation going was they told me that there was no way to be able to tie into that. And I can't tell you why they said that there wasn't, but I do know that everybody on that same team said the same thing, that they couldn't tie into that catch basin.
Okay, I'd like to maybe get a meeting together or something to revise it, because right now what I'm looking at is a potential for pooling in heavy rain events. we're gonna have a pond there every time, and I don't think there's a pond designed into the park, so I'd really like to revisit that.
There actually is a pond design in the park, but it's actually
other
designed that way
side.
in the rain catch garden.
Yeah.
And I was frankly a little surprised whenever I saw the outfall stop where it did.
Yeah.
Because I thought the same thing that you thought, that it was supposed to go all the way to the street.
Yeah,
But
everybody thought that, James.
yeah. So, but for whatever reason, it wasn't designed that way. Rather than, calling a meeting, let me just send around an email string, loop in the council and Mr. Sellers, of course, and get them talking about it, and then hopefully we can pressure them to come up with something else. They're not done in the park, so it's not like we can't go back and fix something, but there is a reason they couldn't get into that box. And maybe someone else in this room, Harper or maybe David or somebody else knows, but I can't tell you what that reason was, other than I was told that it couldn't get there for whatever reason.
Yeah, and the only reason I was investigating is because it's a part of the park that's gonna be used, and when we have big rain events, it'll be a part that we won't be able to use for, people coming out there to the park. So keeping the entire park usable, friendly is probably what I'm looking at right now. But if we could definitely keep me tied into that chain so we can come up with a solution for that, I appreciate it. James, thanks for all your help with that.
Thank y'all.
Anyone else? Yeah, that's the first I'm hearing of that. So, Jerry's not here though tonight, so he'd be one. I think he's also probably had some discussion about that, but essentially it's a drainage pond is what I just heard James say. That's news to me, so I thought it was somehow collapsed or something like that. But I just wasn't aware that was part of the design.
Yeah, I actually went out there and took a lot of pictures and tried to come up with a solution as well, so hopefully
Does anybody have any other questions or comments regarding any of the items that have been presented or on the consent agenda? All right. Does anybody have any, thank you, Leon. Does anybody have any items they want to remove from consent agenda? Councilmember Flores, Kale.
I would like to pull 10, 11, and 12.
All right. Any other items? Motions on the remainder?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items 7 through 16, excluding 10, 11, and 12.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rizo, seconded by Councilmember Tobias, that we approve agenda items 7, 8, 9, 13, 14, 15, 16. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Negative.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 10, approval of a contract with Schaumburg and Polk, Inc., Tyler, Texas, in an amount not to exceed $84,000 for the TPWD Spring Branch segment of Plum Creek Trail. This is Mr. Sellers' items. Councilmember Flores, Kelly, you have a question?
Thank you. Yes, I just have a few questions in regards to the short form of agreement that was included in the backup material. And I just want to make sure, I had questions about the contractors, because if I'm reading this correctly, it looks like the services are going to be for engineering. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so then the actual work being done is going to be done by contractors?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so first question is, will the city pay the contractors directly?
Yes, ma'am. This is a reimbursement grant that we received. So we received, I believe it was $250,000 from Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. We matched that with a certain amount of city funding. We will move forward with the construction of the project and then submit toward Parks and Wildlife for reimbursement in phases.
Okay, because it looks, okay, so who's going to hire the contractors? Is the city or is the engineering company?
We will hire the contractor.
Okay, so I guess I just wanted to confirm, because it looks like in here that the company, Schaumburg and Polk?
Schaumburg and Polk.
Okay, they are going to have a hand in also hiring the contractors, is that correct?
Yes, they will be part of the selection, and then they'll do project oversight.
Okay, but they're not responsible at all for the contractors. Is that correct? Like the quality of work, I guess, for the contractors? If I'm reading that correctly?
Probably in this agreement, that's true, just because this is the design phase. But once we go into construction administration, we will actually be bringing back another proposal from Schaumburg and Polk at the next meeting to augment this section. So this is the Spring Branch section of the trail of the VIBE, but they're going to come back for a proposal for engineering services on the remainder of the VIBE, and then we'll have construction administration as part of their scope for the entirety of the system.
Gotcha. Okay. So this may be jumping the gun a little bit. There's on page 2, it's the bidding phase, and it looks like it says assist owner, which is a city, in advertising for and obtaining bids or proposals for the work. Advertisement fees are not included. So where do we have any idea what the advertising fees are going to be, or is that just too far out?
It'll be very nominal.
Okay.
We actually do have a deadline per the state on which we need to advertise and move forward with the construction. So it will happen fairly soon for this section, but the advertising will be nominal in the hundreds of dollars.
Okay, so that's it for, that's all I have for 11, if anybody else does.
Any additional questions? Would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve agenda item 10.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Flores-Cale, seconded by Councilmember Rizzo, that we approve agenda item number 10. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 11, approve a resolution of the City Council, the City of Kyle selecting a grant writer to assist the city in its application and administration of a contract if awarded for the TDEM Hazard Mitigation Grant Program for February winter weather. This is Harper's item. Councilmember Flores-Cale.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you for being proactive. It's nice to, I was just thinking about like, what are we doing as a city to prepare for winter? Because last winter was all too soon for me. So I did reach out and ask a couple questions. And first of all, Julie's amazing. She's so nice. And she's easy to work with, and she explains things really well. So, as does Harper. And so my initial questions were like, what does this look like? What do we need a grant writer for? And so if you could just give a brief overview of like what you guys are asking for, and then what this grant writer will cover.
So we're applying for some grants through the Texas Division of Emergency Management, and these are specifically for backup generators for our critical water and wastewater sites. So some lift stations and some wells to help mitigate the effects of the last winter storm we went through. So when we were reaching out to TDEM, the Texas Division of Emergency Management, they recommended that we apply for 3 to 4 grants. We separate them out because that will increase our chances of at least being awarded some of them if we don't get awarded for all our grants. So due to that, there's a lot of red tape involved in these applications, and so we put out a request for proposals for a grant writer to assist in organizing all the information that's needed and writing and submitting these grants. And then depending on how many were awarded, they would then help us ensure that we're staying in compliance with the grants, because again, in order to actually receive the money, we have to make sure we follow all the rules and regulations of the grants. So the grant writer would also help administer the grants once we receive them.
Perfect. All right. The only other question I have will be for Mr. Sellers. I just want to make sure the backup material, as we discussed, has Trailer and Associates, and I just want to make sure that whenever we do any kind of contract that we use the correct legal name.
Yes,
And that'll be, other than that, I'm excited about this.
Do you have something you want to say?
Well, we did call the contractor. We received the correct legal name, so we can amend that in the backup documents.
Yeah, and just to touch base on that, I don't know what we can do as a city to make sure, because this was a RFP.
Request for proposal.
Request for RFP, and so I guess we assume that when we get that information in, that's the correct name of the entity. But when I was doing my research, I was a little worried. I was like, this entity does not exist. Or the name did, but it was not in active status. And so I don't know if there's something that we can do as a city to make sure that when we move forward, we have the correct name automatically. Nothing that I think that, Julie or staff that are requesting the grants should do, just something to kind of cover ourselves to make sure that all our companies are the right name and that they're active at the Secretary of State.
Is there anything that needs to be changed on this right now, that we need to do?
Just the backup, right?
Yeah, we can amend it.
Okay.
All right, any other questions on that?
Just real quick, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for bringing this forward. I know this year when we had the winter storm, it really affected us all. So I think, again, we're being proactive. Same thing I've been bringing up about the emergency coordinator position. We need to be ahead of the game, and I think this would really help us to where we can help facilitate some of the money that's going to come in, and then also that we're in compliance. So this, I would support this.
Anyone else?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda item 11.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Rizzo, seconded by Councilmember Ellison. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 12. Approve a resolution of City Council of the City of Kyle selecting an engineer in conjunction with the submittal of an application for funding through TDEM Hazard Mitigation Grant Program for February winter weather. Councilmember Florescal.
Actually, these two kind of go together, correct? Okay, and so that in the resolution, I think, is where we need to just make sure we confirm the name. And that name is going to be Gary R. Trailer and Associates, Inc. Period.
Correct. That's actually, so that's the grant administrator company, and then we also put out a request for qualifications from an engineering company. So number 11 is the Trailer and Associates, and number 12 is the engineering company, which is KSA Engineering.
Okay. If you don't mind, I just want to check something real quick, just to make sure.
And these grants, the money we would receive from these grants are specifically for these generators. They wouldn't be able to be used for anything else. It would just be for, the design and construction of the generators for the well and lift station sites.
Can I say, I spoke to the gentleman. He was the nicest guy ever. Like, I was talking to him, he's like, whatever we can do to get it, to do it right so the city can, we're grateful for the city to hire us. And I was like, that is so nice. He was really nice. So it's nothing personal, and I hope people kind of understand that. It's just, if I'm going to sit up here and approve something, I want to make sure I'm approving the correct item. Yes, so it looks like approval. The resolution is actually under Trailer and Associates, the backup material is. And so that, I think, is what needs to be the name I just gave. Hold on. Gary R. Trailer and Associates, Inc. Because that's who we spoke with, correct?
Yeah, that is the grant writing firm.
Okay.
They were also the firm that we worked with on the Bunton Creek Interceptor, as well as the trail grant that we just talked about.
Awesome. Okay. So I would like to make it. Oh, would you have a question? Okay.
Yeah, I do too.
Councilor Rizzo.
Just real quick, Harper, what steps are we taking to winterize the generators themselves? Because we all know when generators, if you're up from up north, generators fail in cold weather. Are we doing anything to winterize our generators when we get them?
Tim, you got anything on that?
Tim Sanford, Division Manager, Shipping Operations. So one effort we are changing this year based on what we experienced this past February is we had some gelling of diesel in a lot of our, not only generators, but our supply that we have in storage in our trucks and facilities. At the end of this month, we'll be treating all that fuel with cetane, which is an octane booster. Helps with a lot of things, but also helps fuel from becoming gelled. We have also purchased some small generators to maintain 120 volts, which is what your sites will use for heaters, heat lamps, things such as that. So if we do have a large power outage occur, that we can maintain at least those small heat sources just to keep things from breaking, so that when the main power supply does come back online, that we aren't fighting leaks and things like that. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, that answers my question. I was just making sure, because I know during the freeze this past year, we experienced issues with generators as well. Myself, I've got a few generators at the house, well, 4 of them, and I actually had to warm them up in order to turn them on. It was kind of surprising to me, but speaking to people from up northern states, they've said they've had the same issue as well. So being proactive on that was my main concern. So thank you.
Mr. Rizzo, we also have Tim's provided what we're doing to winterize all the stations. So I don't know if you've seen that yet or not, but if you want a copy, we can get you that as well.
Yeah, please email it to me. Thank you. Yeah, to council, please. Yeah, to council, sorry. Yeah, definitely. And with that being said, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda item 12.
Moved by Councilmember Rizzo, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kale. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, agenda item number 17, authorize city manager to execute standard utility agreement phase order number 3 with P.E.C. To relocate overhead power lines around the premises of Krug Activity Center to adjacent streets, alleys, underground as necessary for beautification of downtown square, Kyle Hartson Park. Mr. Barba.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. Wanted to kind of explain some of the numbers that you see on the narrative there under other information. We're expecting the estimate from P.E.C. to be around $420,000, $798.93. That's their estimate for labor and materials to do their part of the work. There are still a number of other items that we need to pay for as the city, and the estimate that we came up with was about $394,410. So the total amount for the relocation of the overhead power lines is about $815,000 plus.
Which power lines are those?
There's a map that's attached with your, it's kind of hard to read, but it's in the backup. It's the lines around the downtown area and the around City Hall.
Well, that map's a little bit hard to understand.
Yes, it is. It's very complicated,
Scott,
yes.
do you have a sense of this, or James? Who can tell us just briefly what?
Joanne's here, Dale.
Okay.
Joanne Garcia, transportation engineer that works with Leon. And so basically the P.E.C. lines that would be relocated are in front of the old City Hall, Burleson, and the 3-story building that we're proposing will go through the alley between the fire station and Miller Street with the relocation. Those lines will go through that alley, go to Nance Street, then go north on Nance Street toward Lockhart. And so they'll be relocating to Miller Street, not Miller Street, but the alley and then Nance Street. And so around Old City Hall, you won't see P.E.C. lines. The next phase of this will be relocating Frontier that's off of Center Street. And so I'm working with that communication company. I'm also working with Time Warner. But the first move is to try to move P.E.C. from around Old City Hall.
Okay. Is there any other commentary as far as it relates to, because we were given a total project scope of, I think, $2.5 million initially for everything that we want to do. So I see this as $800,000. I'm trying to understand, should I be excited about that number, or what is that number in relation to? Well, exactly, that's what I'm kind of trying to ask.
That was their best estimate with the cost of material and labor costs right now. Depending if council approves it, they will order the materials and possibly get started like in January, February. Now, if there's a change in cost of material to them, then our prices will go up. Now, on the city's part, we had to go out and hire an engineering firm to design the plans for the part that we would be responsible for. And so we contacted K-Freeze, which is a rotational engineering company that works for us. And they will be putting that set of plans together for our part of this project. We'll take that part to a letting, and we'll get another cost from a contractor to do the underground work. And so then our cost could increase depending on how those bids come in. But once we get to the advertisement and hopefully a selection of a low bidder, responsible low bidder, that information will come back to council for awarding that contract. So we could see it going up depending on what the cost of material and labor is at the time that we take the plans, to a letting.
Mayor, this is only the electrical. So we have the telecoms on those poles that will also need to be relocated. So they're part of this cost. We're going to work with them to do that. We have 3 vacant conduits in the ground on Center Street. So we're going to be negotiating with them to help underground that, but there's a cost, a significant amount of that cost set aside for those telecoms.
So we're talking about actually
taking
taking some poles down in January, February, starting that process, or is this just the electrical and all poles stay up?
All poles stay up until P.E.C. moves. but PEC, has to make the first move, and then they cut the pole, whichever post, they got removed off. Then whatever communication company is on it, then I'm working with them so that they can get off the pole. Once they get off the pole, then the poles can come down. So it's in phases. But we do have a set of plans from Frontier. They already received PEC's plan. And so they've already put a plan together with what they would have to do once PEC moves. So all the communication companies, they're working towards that. But we first have to start with PEC. And then we may incur some additional costs, from the communication companies.
And so these are the poles around the park, essentially?
Yes.
On the north and the west side?
Yeah, Burleson, Miller, and on Main Street, there was one pole that's already been taken off.
The one that goes right across the promenade now would be removed?
On the
north side?
That's the Frontier lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, center is Frontier right now.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is, I'm trying to figure out what is the timeline for getting, what is our goal? What is our internal goal and
This is a
expected
first
cost and
step here,
timeline?
and then it's the telecoms. So we're not really going to see poles come down yet with this agreement, but we're working with the telecoms. Once they get off as well, then we'll see all the poles come down.
My timeline with Frontier is that I've advised them based on what PEC's told me, that they should probably be ready to go in May, this coming May 2022. That's when the communication companies would begin the relocations.
Okay.
Based on what PEC has told me they'll take to get the materials and the crews out there.
And we're expecting additional costs with that as well on the Frontier line? So this is just to underground the electrical and then there'll be an additional cost?
We might have some fees from them. They have not given me those estimates yet, but it is possible that we could eventually get some fees from them for their part. Because what I know right now is the city did not put all the underground conduit in place that is needed by Frontier.
Right. And I'm worried that we're not going to remove all the wires needed to take the poles down. So that's kind of it's the same basic thought. I'm just trying to make sure that we have a really clear path towards getting all the lines taken down and removed before we start. And then at least some kind of a clear understanding of how much it's going to cost all in total for call them the park poles. Do we have a sense of how much it would cost all in total?
Well, when my first reaction when I saw this estimate from P.E.C. was amazing because of the high estimate. I think we're going to be a lot less than the $2.5 million. So
Okay.
somewhere $1 million, little over $1 million. Now, my hope again is because we're dealing with Frontier on some other projects in the city that we can work with them to utilize our existing conduit and keep that cost to a bare minimum to us.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Thanks for letting me go for a minute. Councilmember Tobias.
No, you make good points, Mayor, because what I'm hearing is possibly more funding. Because number one, we don't want to disrupt the service to any of the residents, just right off the bat, Second thing was the cost as well. You're right, at $800,000, we were just talking $2 million not too long ago. And so it's just that gray area that we're saying, okay, well, we're going to have a maybe possible additional costs with the contractor or maybe with other people, or of course, we're hearing around everywhere as far as the product or the materials is going up. So I guess, and then now we're looking, if we get this, it'll be done starting in May, which is 6 months from now. So it's a lot of this is in the air, gray area, and just you make good points on that end. I mean, we don't want disruption, number one, for our residents, but number two, are we going to come back again? Oh, by the way, in order to get the telecom done, it's going to cost more on this level. We got to approve this and so forth.
Yeah,
I guess we just want a definite.
So to answer that question, yes, we will come back. And the reason why is the poles are owned by P.E.C. The top wires are P.E.C. wires, but when they lease out the remaining space on the pole, basically those telecoms have a right to exist on that pole. So we needed to know that P.E.C. was even willing to relocate their wires off the pole. They are, and that's this agreement, but they'll just remove their wires. Those telecoms still have that right to be on there. So when Joanne says that they're going to cut the pole, that's just cutting the top of the pole. So it's still we have those telecoms. So the next step, now that we know, this is the first action to now go back and finalize our agreement with Frontier. We'll bring that back to council if there's an additional cost. if we can, we'll try to condense everything as much as possible so we just disrupt these streets one time.
And the expectation is that the city will be responsible for undergrounding the telecoms through our already installed sleeves, but not the electrical, so just the telecoms. And we think we have enough room to be able to accomplish that?
Electrical will go through the back alleys onto side streets. We're trying to see, we have 3 good-sized conduits.
Well, I know we've looked around there many times, so I'm just wanting to confirm, you do think we have the space to underground the, because if we don't, then we have a whole nother pickle, right?
Depending on the size of their fiber, you can get many strands just through one of those conduits. So we've got several that we've already identified, I think so.
Yeah, the 3 that the city has right now down Center Street, the underground conduit, Frontier has 2 lines, so they're using 2 of the 3-inch conduits. And the 3rd one, since it was committed to Frontier in 2007 when that project was commenced, the sidewalk streetscape project, and it was noted on the plans as being for Frontier, it remains Frontier's. I do not know the agreements that were in place between the city and Frontier in 2007. So this relocation of the lines going underground started with the city in 2007. And I did not have any luck finding those agreements, but I did find the minutes from those, from council meetings.
Did you say that 2 of the 3 undergrounds are already in use?
No, the set of plans that Frontier has turned into me for review and other folks here at the city, they'll be using 2 of those on day 1, whenever they get started in May. But the 3rd one is also committed to them for their future expansions if they need the 3rd one.
And you're saying that you think they'll agree to that because we're going to give them an extra line, but it takes their right to be on the pole away sufficient that we can remove the pole?
Right now they have agreed to because they have turned in a set of plans to me showing that. They submitted it to me, asked me to review it, if that was in line with what council wanted, the plan that we wanted to see, the relocations, and it was. And so we okayed the plan that they submitted, and so that's what we're working toward. I also met with Time Warner, and they've gone through me to tell me what they propose to do, and it works out with what they're proposing to do. Their cost is much less than what Frontiers would be.
So let me just ask it one more way, and then I'll be done. Do you have a high degree of confidence that if we spend the money to reroute the electrical, we will be able to finish the project and underground the telecoms and remove the poles?
I have a high degree of confidence that it'll get done, but the project will begin right here at this street in front of us, Front Street, and it'll only go to midway between Burleson and that street.
Okay.
With the relocations off of Center Street. And then there'll be the P.E.C. poles that are on Main Street and on Miller Street. They are going to be pushed back to the alley between the fire station and, Miller Street. And so they will be not seen from Old City Hall, but they will be swinging around, on that street.
Right. Okay. I apologize for taking so long. Does anybody have any additional comments, questions? All right. All those, motion to approve, sorry. I don't think we have a motion on the table yet.
Second.
All right, it's moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Tobias. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carries 6-0. All right, next up, agenda item number 18, direct staff to issue RFP for management services to include the maintenance of landscape structures and furniture for the MKH, La Verde, and Heroes Memorial Parks with required scope to ensure these parks are maintained to the council's stated gold standard. Mr. Sellers.
All right, Mayor, Council, Scott Sellers for the record. Council may recall that in our agreements with La Verde as well as Kyle Hartson Park that we needed to come back with maintenance standards, and those standards would be representative of those 2 parks and the high caliber of maintenance. We've been working behind the scenes on draft maintenance standards for a while now, and we are ready to add those to a request for proposal document. Kyle Hartson Park, as being the first park delivered to us, we wanted to ensure that high standard, that gold quality standard of maintenance as well. So we want to add that to this RFP. The foliage, the park improvements, at this point, our Parks Department is overseeing the maintenance, but again, this contract will be for all 3 parks, And once we have that firm identified, then we'll turn over the maintenance at that time. Now, Heroes Memorial Park will be delivered substantially complete in March of next year, and then La Verde will be roughly in June of next year. So we're coming up pretty quickly here, and want to make sure that, you know, as things start to grow, that we are prepared for the maintenance within each of those parks. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Scott. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Sellers?
Did you just say Heroes Memorial will be substantially complete by the end of March?
Yes.
And then June for La Verde?
Yes, sir.
Just because I think last time I got a timeline, it was May for both of them. So that's great to hear on Heroes Memorial.
Yeah.
And I know
I
La
confirmed with
Verde's
David today.
Had a couple of
That includes the porcelain cover, the
Likely.
granite.
So, no, for Heroes, likely that's probably going to be a month later, so the park will be substantially complete, but we'll have that last thing to button up.
Sorry, if you want to come up. Yeah, state that on the record. That's all right.
David Harding, agency, I'm project manager for the record. Mayor, council, yeah, so that's very likely the park will be substantially complete. We will have those porcelain panels to be installed roughly about within a 30-day period following. So about a month later, we should be totally complete with that park.
Heroes Memorial done before Memorial Day is what I
Oh, yeah, that'd be nice.
Right.
Are you good? Councilmember Flores-Kell. Yeah.
I think my question is going to be for Scott. So for the Mary Kyle Hartson Park, is Coleman and Associates not doing the landscaping?
So Coleman and Associates was just hired for the design of the park.
Okay.
TF Harper is doing the installation of the landscaping, but there's not a firm for the maintenance.
Gotcha. Okay. And this will require a budget amendment, is that correct?
So the two parks that are within the TERS boundary would be maintained out of that TERS fund.
Is there enough money in that TERS fund for that?
There is plenty of money in there if the TERS board allocates a certain amount for maintenance, yes. I mean, we're already doing that with certain
I think
properties
that
within
is
the
our
TERS.
intention as well.
Correct.
Is to have the TERS maintain both of those parks completely.
Okay.
That's correct. Mary Kyle Hartson Park. Okay.
General fund.
So we were making sure that the Park Development Fund could or could not, apparently could not, so it would just be in addition to the general fund.
Okay, so the Mary Kyle Hartson Park is going to be a budget amendment coming out of the general fund?
Yes, ma'am.
And do we have an amount for that?
Not yet. The RFP, once we select a vendor, we'll know what that amount would be.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? All right, motions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 18.
Second.
As written.
Moved by Councilmember Tobias, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Coach. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next up, agenda item number 19, first reading, approve an ordinance of the City of Kyle, Texas, authorizing and approving exchanges and conveyances of land with the Alexander Family Trust by and through Mary Jane Alexander as the director of Mary Jane Alexander GP, the general partner of BJMJ Alexander, et cetera. Mr. Barba.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. Council, if you recall, a couple of months ago, we went through this same type of ordinance, and there was this error made in the surveying, so we gone back and corrected that. Actually, the trade that we're going to do with the Alexanders almost broke even, so it was a better deal for us. But this is the ordinance that would approve that trade with the Alexanders.
Is there any questions, comments? Councilmember Flores-Kell.
Thank you. When I was reading the ordinance, it looks like there's going to be a swap for some land. And then when I looked at the land, it was all like, I need GPS to figure it out. So if you could just tell me what we're going to swap with these people, with, is it the Alexanders that we're doing?
That is correct.
Swap with?
Yes.
Yeah. So what are we, I know what we're taking, what are we giving?
We're giving the existing roadway to them. That road there was no way to identify any deeds that were recorded for that particular road by prescriptive rights. We just, the city eventually took over the road, or the county actually, and as we annexed, we got the road. So we're giving them the road back, and they're giving us that straight connection back to the, make that regular intersection is what we're doing. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Motions?
So I would like to make a motion to approve agenda item 19.
Second.
All right, it's moved by Councilmember Flores Kale, seconded by Councilmember Rizzo. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilmember Tobias.
Mr. Barber, just real quick, was the family okay with the agreement on this? Or did it seem like it was starting to, with a relation on this, the swap?
Mr. Alexander had some questions and was some concerns because we were literally taking about 8.5 feet on the west side. And so he said, well, if you take 8.5 feet, I want 8.5 feet on the east side back. And I explained that that wasn't going to be able to be done because of the way the alignment of that geometry that we had there. I met with him a couple of times out in the field. We looked at it, had it flagged so he could see exactly what was being taken and what was being switched or traded out. So he was fine with that. And he actually allowed us to move forward without this agreement being in place to finish out the water line so we could speed up the process. So he's very familiar with the process. And I sent him an email this morning telling him what was going on.
Okay, so the Alexander family was okay with it. The property owners were comfortable with this moving forward.
Mr. Alexander was, Davin Alexander. He's their representative. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Is there any objection to this being finally passed? Seeing none, it is finally passed. Next up, agenda item number 20, approve a resolution of the City of Kyle, Texas, accepting the petition for annexation of approximately 102 acres located at the north corner of Highway 21 and East FM 150. Mr. Earp.
Mayor, Council, for the record, James Earp. I am filling in for Will Atkinson tonight, who had a death in the family and had to travel for a funeral. So if you will grant me grace, I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
But that said, tonight effectively what we're dealing with are two items that are annexation related. One of these two items had a development agreement in lieu of annexation in place over the property. That's the one that we're talking about right now. There's a parcel that's on the hard corner of 21 and 150 that is wanting to buy that parcel from the bigger piece, which then triggers the annexation portion of the agreement. I believe that 17 acres is being bought by a supermarket company that's looking to put a grocery place there. Water is county line. There is currently no wastewater. So the wastewater would be serviced by septic until such time that there is city availability for us to provide sewer or for an alternative sewer provider to provide sewer to that area. This acceptance of the annexation petition, because of the nature of the development agreement, it's a voluntary annexation. And this acceptance of the petition is essentially establishing the public notices and the hearings that will be scheduled in January.
All right. Any questions, comments? Councilmember Flores Kale.
Thank you. This is what's going to bring, is it JD's Meats Market over to the east side?
Let me see if that's in the...
I think it's back up. Let me double check.
There's certainly, it was discussed who it was. I'm just trying to remember that it says that specifically. I'm in the staff memo, and it's JD's Market is the way it's listed for me.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be ridiculous for anyone to be against this because we are a food desert on that side, so anything over there is going to be appreciated.
Any other comments? Councilmember Rizzo.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve action item number 20.
Second.
That's moved by Councilmember Rizzo, seconded by Councilmember Tobias. Is there further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 21, a resolution of the City of Kyle, Texas, accepting the petition for annexation of 201.377 acres located at 1899 Six Creeks Boulevard, more or less, of land located in Hays County, Texas, setting the annexation schedule, et cetera. Mr.
Mayor, Council, again, for the record, James Earp, Assistant City Manager. This item that is before you is a second phase of development in the bigger Blanco River Ranch property. This is across this Six Creeks Boulevard from the current Six Creeks and the Hannah McGee project. It's a 201 acre parcel.
that is after negotiations with staff looking to voluntarily annex. This is not in an agreement in lieu of annexation. They're voluntarily requesting annexation as a part of the development agreement negotiation package, which will include some financial incentives to get them into the city limits. That DA should be scheduled for the next council meeting in December 16th. I believe Paige and Amber and Mr. Sellers will be presenting that. This also, like the other one, sets the public hearing schedule and begins the process. So we're accepting the annexation petition by action of the city council, and then that is then in turn establishing the schedule and beginning the public hearing process.
All right, thank you, Mr. Earp. Is there anyone having any questions or comments?
Mayor, motion to approve consent agenda item 21.
Second.
All right, it's moved by Councilman Rizo, seconded by Councilmember Tobias. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 22, second reading, an ordinance amending chapter 41, subdivisions of the city of Kyle, Texas, for the purpose of modifying section 41-136, lots in chapter 53. It's the second reading. What do we got here, James?
So this is the...
Those are the hardest ones. for me
I
right
know,
there.
I hate them too. I
Changing the
completely
code.
concur.
It's hard. They have these huge paragraphs.
To make you feel better, there's nothing that says that the mayor has to read everything into the record as the heading. You can simply just open the item. So there you go. You're off the hook.
Well, I try to read substantially the item so that the audience can understand what we're discussing. So I'm aware of that, though. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so the way that I understand this after talking to Will is, if you will recall on first reading of the amendments to the zoning, there was a couple of items that council wanted to see amended and changed. So he has made those amendments and changes, and it's been brought back on second reading to make sure that you endorse and accept, those changes. So I will scroll down, but the biggest one I think was the maintenance of the utility lot to be the responsible of the homeowners association. So that is now changed in the code, in the suggested code for the amendment of 41-136. There are a couple of other red lines that are in the code from the last time too. And then there is the change also that's included for the townhomes, which is that it was changing the garage sizes. And then this allows for the entry to be at the rear of the residence, attached or detached with the garage, or covered parking opening facing the side or rear property line. If detached, the garage or covered parking will follow the accessory structures of section 53-33, regardless of setback requirements. So what that does is effectively allow for covered parking in lieu of some garages for townhomes.
Okay, thank you, James. Does anybody have any questions or comments on this item?
Just a motion to approve agenda item 22, Mayor.
All right, it's moved by Councilmember Rizo, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kales. Or any other discussion? I think it was worthwhile for us to spend a little extra time and nail that, so I'm glad for it. Is there anything else? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next up, agenda item number 23, agreement for public improvement district and tax increment reinvestment zone creation and administration services with P3 Works. Ms. Sines.
Mayor and Council, this agenda item is related to the project described with number 21, the annexation of the property, the 201 acres. This agreement would engage P3 Works specifically for this particular project to analyze the PID and the TERS and advise the council on the numbers and financials behind that, so you can make decisions related to the document you'll have to approve.
Understood. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Sines? Comments? I think P3 Works, and they've done a good job. Obviously, their company is growing because PIDs are growing throughout the region, and they've been our go-to. They helped us clean up our PID policy back on, and then they've been very professional, and I just don't hear a lot of complaints about them ever, which is that's what you want from certain groups like PID administrators. You want to hear nothing, so that's meant to be a compliment. Does anybody have any discussion? Councilmember Flores-Kale.
Okay, which is this? This is for a specific PID and TERS that we want to do?
This is related to what we've been referring to as TERS number 5. Savannah Ranch is the kind of the working title of the project. Those change from time to time.
Okay, so TERS 5 is not active, like we haven't approved that, correct?
Correct, you have not.
Okay, so I guess my question would be, why are we hiring somebody to create and do the administration part if we haven't, is that?
Typically so you have, P3 is your PID administrator for all the PIDs that the city has, and I'm not sure what they have done prior to this particular PID, but I know they've gone to a model where they approve a PID agreement for each PID, a PID services agreement, because their fees for administering the PID over the life of that PID are paid out of that public improvement district. So they have a specific agreement for each PID. If you do not create the PID, if the project doesn't come to fruition, then that part would not be in effect. You can terminate this agreement with 60 days notice, but their services are going to be essential for the city to analyze the proposals that come before you.
Okay, so if we cancel this in 61 days, what happens?
Then you pay them through the end of the agreement, through their services through the end of the agreement, and go on from there. If the PID's already been created, then you'll have to be ready to have someone else lined up to administer the PIDs, because that's a pretty specialized service, and you'd want to have a specialized person handling that, or company.
Okay, so I guess just to confirm, we have to have the TERS and the PID ready to go within the 60 days?
No, that's not what this would require. The 60-day is a termination clause. You can terminate the agreement with P3 Works with 60 days notice if you don't proceed with the project and creating the PID and creating the TERS.
Mayor, would it be okay to postpone this item and discuss an executive session?
So far, the conversation's been okay, though. Is there any?
I want to add a little bit.
There's context you're saying you want to add to this?
Correct.
Is there any objection to waiting? We have executive session items at the end, so we can just move on and bring it back later. Okay. All right, next up, agenda item number 24, approval of change order number 1. Actually, we're going to bring up, was planning on bringing them up all together, so you can discuss them all together.
Yes, sir.
Does that sound okay?
Absolutely.
All right, we have 3 items that are related to our brick and mortar district parks. Agenda item number 24, approval of change order number 1 to Cotman Inc., Austin, Texas, in an additional amount of $12,462, increasing the total amount not to exceed $287,000 for rubberized surface material to be installed at Laverde Park. And then agenda item number 25 is approval of contingency increase for HMP, an additional amount of $424,000. Increasing the total amount to not exceed $8,745,000 for Heroes Memorial Park. And then agenda item number 26, approval of contingency increase for Laverde Park and an amount not to exceed $245,750, increasing the total contract award to Stoddard Enterprises LLC in an amount not to exceed $5,160,750. Mr. Harding, go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, thanks again for having me. Appreciate you guys listening in on this one. So the first item I'll come in on Compan. The contract that the city originally had with Compan Inc. to install playground equipment at Laverde Park. Basically, the contract was for them they locked in a price to install within the year 2021. We are now pushing our install because of the delayed start to that project. The install will be delayed to 2022. Compan has been able to, the good news is that they've been able to lock in all their pricing, continued into 2022. The only item that they weren't able to lock in was this rubberized surface material. It's basically a poured-in-place rubberized surface that goes under the playground that the kids get to walk on, play on, and it's just due to the increase of the cost of rubber that has largely been impacted due to COVID. So anyway, this was the only item that kind of popped up with that contract pushing.
And then can you go ahead and, if it's okay, just explain the other 2 items?
Well. Yes, sir, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so the contingencies, really what we're looking at here is, not to oversimplify it, but we're trying to approve a industry standard percentage pot of money per park to allow for the unknowns of construction. Industry standard is 5%, 5 to 10% of a construction project, and so what we're doing is proposing 5% on both these parks to encapsulate all the different change orders that are coming underway currently and down the line. This is a not to exceed, so these are not numbers that we're definitely going to spend, but the goal here is that what we don't want to have happen is for change orders to have to be presented before council every time they arise, which in turn pushes out dates, which in turn it sort of results in more change orders. We have extended general conditions. Even as we sit currently, there is a specific change that is holding up La Verde Park. And so anyway, we want to make sure that we're kind of able to address those things on a more local level rather than bringing them to council every single time. And just make sure that we're prepared to do that.
Okay. I think you'll get some questions here. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, sir, of course.
Councilmember Rizo.
First of all, I'm excited about the bouncy surface on agenda item 24.
They're fun, yeah.
I don't know if anybody has captured council yet. Every time we tour the park downtown, we're all making our way that way just to hop our way down to the play area, so it's really neat. So I think they've caught us all being kids there, definitely. But I understand the change orders. I know that we're definitely going to be getting some, and bringing this back and forth is tedious, and it slows down the project as well. One of the things that I'd like to see is that we get updates, timely updates on what those change orders are, so that way council has an idea of what those change orders are in real time, and we can keep an eye on it as well.
Absolutely. We can actually start looping, and what we do is we send out executive summaries for each park, but we'd be more than happy to include council members on those as well, and that encapsulate everything, just from project updates and photos to change orders in progress or approved, just anything you need to know high level about each project, we capture in these executive summary reports that we send out monthly. So we'd be very, very happy to include all y'all on those as well.
And then just keeping the project going on schedule, and that's why I'm willing to approve this, is to keep that project, both those projects going on schedule. La Verde Park and the Heroes Memorial is very important to the citizens of Kyle, so keeping those on schedule would be great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ellison.
Thank you. I'm in agreement with item number 24 as well, and that goes a long way up to what we were trying to do in that park. The contingency items of 25 and 26, I just want to make a clarifying point here for Mr. Harding. So when these budgets for these two parks were put together, you talked about the industry standard being between 5 and 10%. These budgets were put together essentially without that contingency.
That's
so this
correct.
isn't, my point in just bringing that up, and you can affirm this for me, is that we're not adding additional contingency that we had put in the budget originally, and now this is more contingency. This is putting in the contingency for the project that probably should have been done from the beginning.
Yes, to clarify that is correct. So ultimately, what happened initially to get these projects off the ground, we were engaged in a value engineering process, and one of the easiest things in terms of value engineering a lot of times is to cut away at the contingency right off the bat. We did that. We also engaged a number of actual value engineering items. I've come before y'all before, and we've kind of put some of those back in. We've maintained some of those. But yes, overall, what we would be doing here is essentially just meeting an industry standard for contingency on both these projects.
Fantastic. I appreciate that. And that's a big clarifying piece on those, I think. But yeah, I appreciate I think the council should be getting those monthly updates. Probably should have already been getting those, but going forward, I certainly appreciate that. Thank you, Scott.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Councilmember Flores-Kell.
Thank you. What does a delay look like when you have to bring something to council?
Sure. So let me give you some by way of extended general conditions. So extended general conditions are if a project gets pushed a month, in the middle of the project, it gets pushed out a month on the end of the project. What that means is that the general contractor will have to pay for another month of trailer, power, water, administration on the project site by way of a superintendent, project manager, costs like that. And those costs can get pricey over the course of an entire month. So we really try to mitigate those as much as possible, especially when it comes to approvals of things like submittals, requests for information, change orders. What we don't want to have happen is literally have a change order process result in another change order, which can happen. And we try to mitigate that, but the only way to really do that is to be able to have the authority and in this case, a big enough pot of money that we can address those things. I do want to make it clear, though, every single change order that comes across my desk gets vetted through me, the entire design team, through an RFI process. We check submittals. I mean, we don't just flippantly approve changes when they come across. So I don't want this to be misconstrued as you give us money and every time we get a change order, we just spend the money. In fact, probably 75% of the change orders that come across my desk, we end up, renegotiating back with the contractor and getting those down for any number of reasons. So just to, let y'all know that we're doing our due diligence on these things. The pot of money is there for a reason, but we use it sparingly, and we'll continue to do that.
Okay, so you have to explain to us why prices go up, but we, as elected officials, have to explain to residents.
Sure.
So I get really hesitant when we talk about doing, $424,000. And my question is, we have a meeting on the 1st and 3rd Tuesday of the month. So we're looking about 2, max, maybe 3 weeks, certain months. So does the price really, and it might, I'm just asking this, I'm not trying to be sarcastic.
Sure.
Does the price really significantly go up in that amount of time to where it's like, we got to go ahead and put money in this fund, which I know is already in contracts, but we didn't have it in yours. Is it that big, like, is it a big deal? Is it going to go up, like, significantly?
I want to make sure I understand the question. You're asking, so are you speaking about material cost increases concerning item number 25?
Any of it. So anytime you have a change order,
Okay,
and then you have to bring it to council, we'll either meet up on, the 1st or the 3rd. So you're going to wait between 2 to 3 weeks. So what we're doing is just saying yes to you right now,
Sure.
as opposed to having you wait 2 or 3 weeks. So the likelihood of that price going up significantly in between that time is what?
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
that's not
so,
what-
yeah, that's not like, I think the bigger issue is that what we're doing is when we push out a change 2 to 3 weeks, we push out a schedule 2 to 3 weeks. And if we push out specific portions of a schedule considered to be critical, critical path elements of a schedule, we push out the final completion date, we push out extended general conditions. That is separate from material cost increases. Like the rubberized surface material, for instance, has been tracked for a long time. That's just due to, the manufacturing of rubberized latex gloves for COVID. Actually, a lot of COVID, type gadgets that are built out of rubber, and so that's due to that cost increase. The actual cost increase for change orders, most of these change orders actually aren't due to material cost increase. They're due to design discrepancies, unforeseen conditions, things of that nature.
Okay. And then I read that there was a delay in this park. The completion date was to be the end of this year, and it looks like it's going to be next year. So can you just give us a brief explanation of why, of the delay?
Absolutely. Yeah, so, and actually, I was when I first got involved in this, one of the heroes kind of kicked off right away. Laverde got delayed a little bit, and one of the issues we had early on in the project, and interestingly, one of the issues that caused us to blow out our contingency or get very close to our contingency ceiling right away was we were originally supposed to access, and see if you can track me here, the Laverde Uptown Central Park via what is now Burnham Road, was not paved yet, and it was being used by the Skybeck construction company to do the multifamily apartments that are right, adjacent to that. And so initially their contractor was planning on utilizing that road. Skybeck and Momark did not want us to utilize that road because they were getting ready to pave it, and they did not want us to be driving on a newly paved road because they were going to have trouble getting approvals from Public Works. What ended up, through a long drawn-out process, what ended up happening, and in a robust effort for us to really get notice to proceed on that project as quickly as possible, knowing that we were going to push out our completion date, what we ended up doing was sort of brokering a deal with Momark to have a separate access cut out and to the park. That costs money. It was not in the contractor's scope initially to do, unfortunately, and so we had to do that. But that was sort of the method that worked for all parties. The city didn't own that land, so we had to get conveyance and get easements in place and contracts in place so that Stoddard could have access to that land and then build that road. And so that kind of pushed out our NTP because we just couldn't get to the park to start construction.
Okay, and I guess my next question is going to be for either Leon or Scott. If you could just tell me where the money is going to come from?
Perez.
Oh, Perez, I'm so sorry. Yeah, Perez. Leon's like, not it.
Not it.
Sorry, Leon.
Yeah, I was waiting for Leon to answer that question.
Yeah.
You know what? If he was your friend, he would have.
So Mayor Pro Tem, council members, for the record, I'm Pervez Mohit, City's Director of Finance. If council approves agenda items 24, 25, and 26, it will require a budget amendment. So if you would please include in your motion for staff, giving staff direction to come back with a budget amendment. And the source of funding will be from general fund balance.
To be reimbursed by the TERS.
For 2 out of 3, right? One of them will not be reimbursed by the TERS? Am I-
All three will be.
All 3 will be. Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for all their answers. I don't ask these just to seem however people can take me, but I want to educate the residents as much as I can, and so we can only do that by asking questions.
No,
So
we
thank
can
you for your
certainly-
patience.
It's a lot of money. I mean, I can appreciate that. We want to make sure that we answer everybody's questions and make sure everybody, just, I get it. It's a lot of money to throw in, and just to kind of approve that without, I think the due diligence is good.
Thank you.
Councilor Rizo.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda items 24, 25, 26. On top of that, giving staff direction to amend the budget and bring that back to council as well.
Second, but
All right,
may
it's
I
moved-
also?
That was perfect. That was perfect. Yeah, approved by, it's been moved to approve agenda items 24, 25, and 26 by Councilmember Rizzo, seconded by Councilmember Flores Kale, in addition to have to direct staff bring back a budget amendment related to these items. Is there discussion on that motion? Councilmember Tobias.
And just make it real quick. I hear both sides. Councilman Rizzo, yes, it's going to be a great thing for our residents. They've been looking forward to it. But also look at it from Flores Kale, when we see all these approval to increase here, increase there, it does raise questions. And we get the emails, we get the calls, okay? So we understand that there's product shortage out there. We do understand that there is labor issues going on. We understand from a ground level, if the wrong concrete was poured and you've got to redo it again, or a truck was damaged or whatever, those costs come into play, or the wrong mix, so forth. It's just got to understand that when we approved these things a year ago and then we're seeing the increase and another change order, it does begin to raise a lot of red flags. And so that's why we're just trying to make sure that we're staying within budget. Yes, it is going to come back on the TERS. It's going to come out general fund. It will get reimbursed. But again, somebody's got to pay for it up front.
Yeah. And can I just speak to that briefly? I couldn't understand more. I just do want to emphasize that these contingencies, these 5% are really, truly, it's an industry standard across. And you kind of think about it in terms, and I won't go on too long here, but if you've ever gone to, Home Depot to build something in your house or DIY something or hired somebody to remodel your kitchen, you know that budget of $5,000, you're about to pay $6,000. Or something's going to come up, that something unforeseen is going to pop up. This stuff happens. Extrapolate that over, a $10 million park, a $5 million park, and that's why we build these in. It makes sense to do that. And from an optics standpoint, the goal here was, I didn't feel right about having to come to you guys every single time we had a change over the initial contingency that was approved. To have to come back to you back over time, I feel like that just creates an even worse optics than what we're doing here. So again, I know it's a lot of money to ask for. I really appreciate your time in this, truly, and your questions. But we're doing the right thing. We're going to continue to do the right thing and make sure that we vet all of these things appropriately and spend your money wisely. I promise you that.
Here are my thoughts. I think this is the appropriate vote to get the contingency back to 5%. I don't think this vote is wrong or your request is wrong. The challenge I have is going back to when we value engineered and removed the contingency in the first place. So that was under the direction of AGCM there as well. And so my personal opinion is that I felt kind of like whipsawed from thinking I was saving money and then realizing what I was really cutting was air cushion that we really needed. And I'm not sure that cutting our cushion was ever really something that we could do. We're going to have to pay for the bills of the contracts that we put forward for these items. And so if by trying to save money on those in order to think that we were within a certain scope of the project and then coming back later and then putting that money back in is a little frustrating to me. But I do not want to delay the project on the basis of not having a 5% contingency, which is a very reasonable amount. So, for that reason as well, obviously I wanted to, I want to support this also. But, do you know what the contingency is on the other projects that you're over, Public Safety Center in particular?
Public Safety Center, there was a contingency. There are several contingencies on that because it's a guaranteed maximum price. I believe it's something in the amount of $602,000 per pot, and there are 3 separate pots. I can pull it up on my phone, but
I don't remember us going through the value engineering exercise on the Public Safety Center that we did on these 2 parks in particular. So I'm hopeful. I don't think we did it on Mary Kyle Hartson either. So I'm hopeful that the remainder of the projects that we're over, and I don't know if Pervez or anyone has some thoughts, and it can be an email later, but just letting us know if this is going to be an issue, if we value engineered by saying we're not going to have increases in prices and reduce the scope on any of our other projects. I'd like to know that sooner rather than later, because I don't think that's a viable path for us. So the other last thing is who is the final say on a change order as it relates to?
It'll be the city of Kyle, yes, sir. So typically what I do is I engage with Jeff Prado directly, who is the city representative, and he and I will agree. Anything above the contingency ceiling, he has to obviously defer back to council, which is why we're here tonight.
Okay.
But it'll be Jeff.
So 600,000 on the Public Safety Center is 2%, roughly.
I have to go back and look at it. I think it's a $31 million total.
Yeah, but it's 3 pots, right?
3 separate pots at 600,000 apiece, so roughly.
So 1.8. So that's okay. So we're there.
Right.
on the Public Safety Center.
And again, that one was a guaranteed maximum price contract versus a competitive sealed proposal here. So it's a little bit different in why we sort of. But I agree with you, and I understand that. Anyway. Yeah.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
All right. Next up. I was hoping to stop us at 9 for a 10-minute break because we've got several hours to go and we're at hour number 4. Any objections to taking this as an opportunity for a 10-minute break? All right. We'll do it. Come back at 9:20 on the dot and gavel in. It's 9:22. I'm going to call this meeting back to order. Next up, agenda item number 27, Arts Commission update. Councilmember Flores-Kale.
That was quick. Thank you. So is Paul here? Oh.
3?
Sorry. Okay, so I was bringing this back with the hopes I'm being able to vote on it today because I'm really not sure why we haven't already voted on this. And so I didn't know if any of the other council members were aware of the delay or the reason. I feel like we were on a good road to getting this done. And so I would like to make a motion to approve the Art Commission.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the Art Commission. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Councilmember Ellison. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilmember Rizo.
Well,
No, I'll give you the floor first. If you want first, I'll let you have it.
well, I second it because I want to have a discussion about it to understand what you're proposing that we approve. Because I did see you provided the backup material of what we left off from last time, but we're still in limbo from what we have from last time. So I second it as an opportunity for us to have a discussion and understand what you're proposing that we approve tonight.
Thank you. Well, I thought at the last meeting we kind of solidified everything that we wanted as far as what the commission is made up on. Now, anything that has to do with the purchase or anything a little more detailed, I think that's going to be regulated by the bylaws. So if anybody had a question on the actual makeup of the commission or anything written in the draft ordinance or the vision or the job description, I thought we were all on board, but I could have been wrong.
Councilmember Rizo.
Yeah, just really quick. I had a discussion with Paul Phelan, library director, just before he was getting ready to bring this forward. Unfortunately, he did have a death in the family, but I think there was one small change. I can't remember what it was, but he had one small change. I would ask that we, if we could hold this vote over till next meeting so that Paul could be here. One reason is that I think Paul is a very important part of this, and I'd like to see him be here for it. But if we're going to move forward, you know, I'm fully on board on what was brought forward last time. I think it's a great scope of what an art commission could look like. And if we need to vote on it, we'll go for it. But kind of like to wait for Paul because he was the architect, very passionate about this. And I think he's done a great job with what he's brought forward so far.
Any other discussion on the motion?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm kind of in agreement. I do think that's been hanging out there for a while, so we might as well decide what we want to do. So to be clear, I don't have any problem with that. I would like Paul to be here, and I do have just some questions about the funding behind the art, and then also questions as it relates to council projects and other projects. You know, we've had different entities, you know, installing art, and we just exactly where sort of their boundaries begin and end, and just kind of an idea of a general flow, but we'd need Paul here for that. And so I'm in agreement with that. I would say that if we were going to wait, it'd be probably best to wait until the first meeting in January, just because the 16th is a special meeting that we've moved up. And generally, the last meeting of the year, we try to keep it light, and we could move it to the first meeting in January and have that discussion then with Paul here. That's just my suggestion. So is there further discussion?
Yeah, I guess I kind of just have a question and why it's taken so long. It looks like the last update was, you know, August. And we've been working on it for what, 6 months, maybe 5 months. And so I don't understand what it is that you guys, or if someone could please help me understand what it is that you need answered, and I get Paul being here, although I think it would be a sweet treat for him to come back and have this ready for him to take off, hit the floor running. I think that would be equally nice. I don't know if we have to necessarily wait for him. I think we've waited long enough. And so overall, I guess my question is just what is it, what was a holdup, and what questions do we have? I know Mayor said funding, but I don't know if that is for the commission or the bylaws. So like the ordinance or the bylaws to decide.
For the budget to decide as well. So it's just, it's currently an unfunded commission, so the scope of what they're gonna be tasked with is, you know, one of the challenges that I have, because we haven't figured out exactly what the workflow is. I think that was the discussion last time for like, how are they gonna be going through and taking up items? So I want to see this, to be clear. I want to see us have a focus on the arts, but it didn't seem to me like we were we were all in agreement on what that should look like, and that's a discussion that I'm happy to have. I just would prefer to have Paul here personally to have it, because he's going to be the department head, and that's going to be interfacing. At least it appears that's the proposal, at least for the library board director to take this on. So,
well, we probably won't fund this like the first year. Maybe it would be my suggestion, anyways. So I don't know if.
Well, that's. I was just saying that's my
okay.
challenge with
it
is if we create a commission that has no money to spend, what will they meet and discuss?
I don't even think that's the issue, personally.
Okay.
I don't even think that's the issue, because we couldn't even agree with what the scope of what they would be working on. If they would be making recommendations, I mean, there's no other board or commission that has a budget or expends money, and so we couldn't even agree on where we were on this. So the reason why, we're going to just get truthful about it, the reason why this pause is because we stopped the task force, and therefore all the work that was being worked on it by those task force members, like other things that there were task force on, it just stalled. And so that's why nothing has been done, and there has, at least to my knowledge, been no communication on resolving those things that divided us the last time we brought it up. So that's why nothing has happened. I don't think it has anything to do with money. I don't think it has anything to do with funding for this board or commission. We're not clear and we're not in agreement as a body on what the scope and what this commission will be doing, what their agendas might look like. There's various things we just didn't agree on last time. That's why this is stagnated.
Thank you. I wasn't too sure if it was, I mean, we don't all have to agree. We need 4 people to agree. So I think we've had, this is what, our 3rd meeting regarding this, and it's still, Councilmember Rizo, or not Rizo, but Ellison made a good point, is like, we just don't agree. So are we just gonna continue not to agree, or can we just take a vote? Do we want the NARS Commission? If we do, yes, and then we go from there. It's not about setting it up, everything right away. And I know there was a concern about a commission having too much power, so if we just say, okay, this will come back each time for us to update, that I think maybe would lessen that power and hopefully put some people up here at ease.
Councilmember Rizo.
Yeah, make sure nobody else was going yet. Scott, do you have any of the updates from Mr. Phelan?
No, sir, I don't.
You don't? I'm sorry. I spoke to him lastly, and I know he was working on something to update on the people that could serve on the board. And I don't quite remember what the update was exactly like. I'm sorry for that, but I think that's where we were discussing. Other than that, I think the entire scope of the work he had done was well presented. I think he had a good and clear path moving forward. No matter what happens, what vote we take today, that if we do create this art commission, direction is always going to come from council. We're going to share the direction we want to go in. What we need to fund that year will come from council as well. So I think if we were to move forward with this, just with the, knowing that direction comes from council, I think we'd be fine. And as a body, and I think we'd be okay approving this as presented last time. I think it was just making sure that we got everybody heard and that we went forward. But I think we're fine moving forward. As far as the budget, something we can set up later and figure it out as we're giving direction and tackling different areas of the city. We can definitely find the funding and direction.
Other discussion. Councilmember Tobias.
Just real quick. So we're saying for some of us to just go ahead and just approve this, and what's the holdup when you've had the mayor say, I've got questions for the library director, and Robert saying, we can figure out a budget some other time. Is that a way that we should just approach this? I mean, it is a great commission, but just like you've brought up many times before, Councilmember Flores-Kell, if there's questions that you need and you need them answered, there's got to be a comfortableness on the vote and making sure that we get it correct. And I think if I'm hearing Councilman Ellison saying the same thing as far as, well, we really didn't have much of a direction if this is what we're going to go with, so we can have the discussion on it. So it's not a matter of like we're just dragging it. We're bringing it forward, but we're just wanting to know if we should give Paul Fabian the respect to be able to be here to answer some of those questions, to make sure everything is clear, since this will fall under his direction, is what I think we're asking.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I agree with many of the statements, especially what Councilmember Tobias just said.
Yeah, and Councilmember Rizo, you said that you're talking about giving direction, that the commission will respond to the direction of council. That's kind of, and I think that's maybe what Councilmember Ellison was saying, what I was trying to say as well, is that we're not clear on exactly what that direction would be. So that some of that just needs to be vetted out through a little bit more robust discussion, but it would be nice to have, Paul here and a little bit more time to work through that, I think. But ultimately, it's up to the board. If we want to create the commission without you know, having that direction, then we can. I just question the purpose and clarity that they're going to feel. The last thing I want to do is create a board, you know, that feels like they don't have direction from the council as far as what their purpose is going to be. So I think we can get there, though. It just is going to take some time.
So out of curiosity, what are we going to tell them in 3 weeks that we couldn't have told them in 4 months?
Yeah, so I get you're frustrated. I get it. I'm frustrated too. There's been other things like the ordinance from Prop F. There's the Arts Commission. There's other projects that we're working on, and I'm looking at Councilmember Rizo right now. I think this is part of why I was a little concerned when we dropped the task force, is that then no work would be done on these things, and we were very active and engaging on these projects when we were doing it that way. Same thing with my recycling for multifamily. All of it's just kind of stagnated, you know. And so I'm frustrated about that, because we were getting so many projects done. We were working through so many different things, and it kind of stalled. But I do think we need to have a robust discussion on figuring out those various different things that we discussed last time. There were a lot of questions and concerns that were given. I wasn't too concerned with those questions that were and concerns that were given last time, but I respect those concerns, and I think that, you know, they should be addressed to some extent. I agree with the mayor. I'd hate to create a commission without a solid direction of what they would be doing, and then start filling out that board without having clear direction on what they'll be doing. I can imagine that will only be more frustrating for those people on that body for us to do that. I think I'm hearing from the council, which is very encouraging to me, that we want to set up this commission. I hope we stick to that and we do this, because it is something I'm very passionate about as well. But the last discussion we had on this dais about this, it was very discouraging, and I didn't know what path we had forward. So we need to work that out.
So can we kind of give direction as to what it is that we want Paul to answer? Because it was my recollection that we had done that previously, and so we were waiting to bring that back, that everything had been addressed. So I guess if we've read our backup material, it kind of explains what it is that this commission is going to be doing. Is there anything in these documents that you guys specifically, or anybody specifically, does or doesn't understand, or would like more clarification from? I know you talk about funding, but as Councilmember Ellison has stated, there's not funding in other commissions, so I don't think that's a valid concern at this point. If you're worried about the makeup of the commission, I understand that, but I'm sure if you just read the ordinance, let me know what it is that you have a question on, and then we can give that direction either to staff, or we can see if we can answer it now. I think everyone has said they want this. So my theory has been, if there's a will, there's a way. And I know we've approved a lot other things with a lot less information. And I, for one, have been on the other side of saying, hey, we should hold up, or hey, I have not had a chance to speak to this person, so I don't want to vote. And that wasn't a concern at the time. And so since I feel so passionately about this art commission, it's going to take a lot for me to back down and say, no, I want to wait, because I know what it feels like to vote in a way that you don't feel like is fair.
Councilman Rizo.
Just one final thought real quick. Excuse me. You know, I know how important this is to you, Yvonne, and all the council, hopefully all of council, but I know how important it is to you. It's just as important to Councilmember Ellison and myself that we're working on this art commission task force. And I don't want to see it fail. It feels like we've got some unanswered questions from council members, and if it means postponing this just a little while to make sure that we don't kill it, I think would be great.
I think Paige is going to save it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Paige.
I was just going to, with the way, with the posting of it, my suggestion would be
if you want to take action, to have it come back to the next meeting with the posting that would allow you to take the action that you want to take, that would be, if that's how you want to proceed with having it approved.
I don't want to extend this if there's not specific questions and a direction given to how we want this to look. So we could sit here and say all day, I don't understand how the commission is made up. Okay, look at this, look at the documents. Tell me what it is that you guys want to see or don't want to see. So I don't want to proceed unless we have direction. If we don't have direction, then we're going to be in the same boat next time.
Unfortunately, the person you give that direction to that would take the notes and make the changes is not here, unfortunately.
Is there anybody that can?
No, Paul's the architect
I get
of
it,
this.
but if not, then we're going to be in the same boat. We're just going to be a different day, same situation. And how is that comfortable for me? You might as well just kill it now and say no, because I feel like if we keep waiting, when do we know when is enough? Because it's not going to be next meeting. That's already been said. And so it's going to be at least a month from now. And I don't know Paul, but I know if it was something that I really wanted, that I would be okay with like moving forward with or without me there. I don't think he's going to be hurt or upset if he comes back and we say, hey, we have this commission that you've been working on for the last 6 months and it's been approved and now we just need to get the details. But I don't think it's fair to say we're going to move forward yet again for another month and not give any direction.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Rizo,
Aye.
Flores Kale,
Yes.
Ellison,
Aye.
Coach,
Nay.
Bradshaw,
Aye.
Tobias,
Aye.
Mitchell.
Nay. Motion carries 5-2. All right. Next up, agenda item number 28, discussion and possible action on the Public Safety Center. Councilman Rizzo.
Sorry, Mayor. Give me a minute. So the reason I'm bringing this forward is because here lately, statewide, the discussion of, what are we doing as the winter months coming forward as entities to prevent, our residents feeling the effects of a freeze. Will it happen again? I don't know. Will it be as massive as it was last year? I really don't know as well. What I'm proposing tonight is for us as a council to be proactive. As everybody throughout the state is talking about what's going to happen with the grid, I'm thinking about here locally, what's going to happen locally. What are we doing as a city to prepare for, say, we have an emergency? And last year, we were proven that emergency happens, systems fail. What are we doing to back up those systems? So what I'm looking at is our Public Safety Center is probably our most crucial piece of programming that will be coming online here in about 14 months. And what I'm looking at is look at emergency dispatch, our EOC as well, trying to find a way that we can be proactive in case there's an emergency. If the city's co-location goes down, what are we doing as the county's co-location, if it were to go down again like it did last year, what are we doing as a city to be prepared to make sure that our 911 services are still working? Last year, we failed, and I don't want to see that happen again, and we failed as a county. I'm not going to put the blame on just the county, it's all of us as a county. When I say a county, it means the cities as well. We didn't have a plan in place. We were so reliant on one source that we didn't think outside the box. So today, what I'm thinking about is directing staff to find space in the Public Safety Center so that we can create an emergency response EOC and dispatch. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm looking at what the required spaces are right now. So right now in our co-location at the county, we have about 1,256 square feet. And the proposed emergency dispatch we have right now is 788 square feet, which is way below. This is for the 4 dispatchers we have. If we were to say we're going to put together an EOC center and a dispatch, what's the space we really need? And I'm thinking that we need, just for dispatch, about 1,200 square feet, give or take. What I'd like council to do is instruct city staff or city manager to try to find space in the public safety center so that we can hardwire preliminarily an area that we could use as an emergency, response center as the dispatch. But also, as the county is growing and the city's growing, I think eventually we're going to outgrow our EOC and our co-location. So what are we doing as a city to be proactive? I know that the space that we're thinking about right now is only 788 square feet, which we will be way surpass that. If we're coming back to Kyle because the county has grown, say, in about 4 or 5 years to an extent where they need the entire building, what are we doing as a city to be ready for that? Right now, we're on the early stages of planning still on our police department. We've got the architecture in, but we've only started the construction. We still have time to make changes. I'd like to instruct the city manager to try to find us the adequate space. I've got some ideas. Unfortunately, we weren't able to bring up maps today. We had some difficulties with that because there's some programming that we can't share about the police department. We weren't able to get rid of those labels. So definitely. So, do you have one? Do you have a version? Could you put that up, please? So is this the bottom floor?
Yes.
Okay, so what we have is on the bottom left of your screen is the proposed, sorry, I'm thinking EOC, I'm stuck, dispatch, can't get EOC out of my head, but the proposed dispatch is the bottom left of your screen, and that gives us 3 offices and enough cubicle space for 6 dispatchers. Right, currently we have 4. Unfortunately, if we do one day bring back our dispatch, it's probably gonna be because we outgrew the county and we're looking for more space. So what I'm proposing is looking at something on the 2nd floor. And if we could get to that picture real quick. So we've got a large space there, a conference space, and a proposed EOC. If we could come back with a plan for, say, the first meeting in January, give you some time to work on it, would that be enough time for us to work on a plan to maybe possibly bring back a different plan for our dispatch and EOC? Would that work? Be great. Would that be enough time? So something I'd like to instruct staff, if council's amenable to it, but to try to find a space for an expanding dispatch and an EOC as well, is what I'm hoping on.
I have lots of comments on this.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so number one, an emergency operations center and dispatch are 2 different things. So an emergency operations center is what happens when we have an emergency. It can be a freeze, it can require public works, it can require Parks and Rec. We've seen that. All different kinds of people coordinating. Dispatch is a very focused group of officers who are taking phone calls and making transfers. And so the 2 don't necessarily correlate, in my opinion. They can correlate. So that's number one. The second is almost purely related to the legal contracts that we're currently in. So we're currently, under agreement with Hays County as it relates to co-located dispatch, and that's been the direction that we're moving. So while there is space, I believe that was identified as a possible overflow for the county, this council has not made any affirmative action towards removing dispatch from the county and bringing that here, which brings up a whole host of legal questions that we would need to be briefed on, what the possibilities, financial and otherwise, for breaking that agreement are. So,
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that at all. This is not for tomorrow. This is for future use. As the county's growing, the city's growing. I'm talking about down the road, being proactive and wiring that in. I'm not talking about bringing them back today or tomorrow. It's about the future. It's not about breaking the contract with the county either. But as the county's growing, the city's growing, if we have an emergency and we need an emergency center as well for dispatch, being proactive in that manner, it's not about breaking our contract or moving the dispatch here tomorrow. That's not what I'm thinking of right now. It's further down the road.
Right, but if you're saying that you want us to be thinking about making dispatch there, what we are talking about is making it an emergency operations center, and those are two different things. So I guess I'm not sure which one of those two you are proposing. You want to make that dispatch, which is a private, sort of cordoned off area, or are you wanting to make it an emergency operations center, which could involve all different kinds of technology, live feeds, live video feeds throughout the city, potentially, administrative functions as well taking part, because EOCs are not just police, EOCs are all staff. So that is what the plan is to make that an EOC type that really functions well for the 21st century. And I'm not sure if what you're saying is that you want to turn that back into a dispatch, which is not what the...
What I'm saying is try to find space for a little over 1,000 square feet for a dispatch, because it's going to be needed here in the future. I know it is. We're growing at an exponential rate. We have emergencies pop up all the time. I don't see them as different entities. I think we could maybe find some allocated space where we could, or move some things around.
Well, but when we have an emergency, never do we go to our old, before they moved to the county, when we had an emergency, never did we go to dispatch to facilitate that emergency. Typically what we did was we went to the Public Works building. So in my mind, an EOC is not a police function. Police play a critical role in that, but Public Works, Parks, Administration, City Management, all different kinds of roles are played there. So I'm just still trying to understand, if you're proposing to make this dispatch, then you're actually taking away our EOC.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying to find some place in the Public Safety Center. I'm not saying an exact space. I'm just throwing options out there on what we could be looking at. But it's just an option. It's not.
You're saying.
So I'm looking. My direction to the city manager is to try to find some allocated space. We could build 1,256 square foot dispatch in it, because right now we're only at half of that, 758 square feet, and that's not sufficient enough. So what I'm saying is, let's try to come up with a plan as a council, working with our city manager, to try to bring a dispatch center here for the future and have it wired in. And like I'm saying, it could be wired in, so if we have an emergency, we could use it now in real time. But in the future, as the county and the city grows, because our growth is not going to slow down anytime soon. And I know eventually that building is going to be overgrown. And there is going to be one day where we're going to be a large enough city where we need to have our own dispatch here. And
our own EOC.
EOC as well, yeah, correct.
Right, that's fine. That's
so
my
I'm not trying to do away with one. I'm just trying to find the space, is what I'm asking.
Well, but the space that you identified is our
Yeah,
EOC.
that was an example. That
Okay,
was an
all right,
example.
okay.
That was an example.
Questions or comments? Councilor Tobias.
Okay, start from the beginning. What you're asking staff to do is to basically look in there and try to find direction. Isn't that what we are looking at with this emergency coordinator that I've sent emails about as far as the openings? Wouldn't that right there be the person that would be able to handle this and move this forward if we're looking for this kind of projects? And I understand last year or during the winter storm, it took a toll on everybody. And something that I've been continuously stressing to council as well, about being prepared for the next critical incident in our city, which we will have one when it's a matter of a when. So we do need to be prepared for that. But as far as this winter storm, we were all caught off guard. Okay, we were all caught off guard. And for us to say that we weren't or we failed on that end, I disagree with that. Even Mayor Pro Tem did a whole long congratulations to all the county city employees for the job well they did. So we didn't drop the ball. We were in a situation to where everybody around the entire state was pretty much at a standstill. But I think when it comes back to this giving direction to staff, I believe that when we get this emergency coordinator on board from the city, that this person can not only just help with what you're asking for, but be able to start working on budgets to where we can plan and work with our police department, also work with our fire department and the public works to have an emergency contingency plan ready to go. And that's, I think, what the whole bottom line is. So I just kind of wanted to make those 2 points right off the bat.
Yeah, Mayor, that's not exactly what I was talking about. What I'm talking about is the construction right now. If we wait till then, we've got slabs poured, we've got walls up, and now we're too late in the process to make any changes. What I'm asking is to identify some space, get it hardwired, so that way we can have that backup if needed in an emergency. It's not that we did bad as a city, it's that what are we doing to be proactive? The rest of the state's talking about what are you doing to be proactive? They're talking about the energy grid, they're talking about all the different entities that people need, all the resources people need during an event like that. And what are we doing as a city? That's what I'm looking for.
Exactly, true. You make those points clear, and I think we all agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think when, like I was trying to say, is when we get this City of Kyle emergency coordinator person hired, that person then can really look at the facility that's being built and be able to give the recommendations and also work with the county if we need to be able to develop this kind of contingency plan and making sure that we are all together working together on this. And they can also provide insight as for us to be getting prepared, even if it includes getting funding or grants or anything like that, so we can be ready for this emergency. So I think when it comes to the direction of giving staff, I think we're in the process of that, if I'm not correct, Mr. Sellers, of looking at hiring somebody finally that we approved in this last budget that I really supported, about getting somebody on board to where we can have that person ready to go to be able to help with all of this.
Again, you're talking about a plan for a storm. I'm talking about the building itself, the early stages of it, and where we need to go as a city for the emergency dispatch if needed. And if we wait till we hire someone, then we're further down the road in construction. I'm thinking of the construction, not the plan of what we're going to do as an emergency as a city. I'm looking at being proactive right now with the building. What can we do with the building? And I'm going to emphasize that the building,
I understand.
not the plan.
The building is being built right now. The concrete's being laid out. But there's also the application for this position already open, correct, Mr. Sellers?
Yes, sir.
It is being open to where it's just a matter of us taking the application and start looking at hiring this person.
And he's not going to have anything to do with dispatch. You know that, right? It's got nothing to do with him on that part of it.
Well, okay,
That'd be-
well then
that's
at
under the
least
chief of
when
police.
he's on board, he can be able to give any kind of the recommendations, because he's going to be tied into that building, tied into our emergency contingency plan. That's what I'm getting at. Right now, we are in the process of looking for somebody while our building is being built. The concrete is being laid out, the framework's going up, but in the meantime, if we can get somebody on board within the next couple of months, that person can help with that exactly the project that you're looking at, sir. That's all I'm saying. That's the direction, the direction of staff that you're giving. They're already in the process of trying to hire somebody to be able to do that.
All right, let's see if we can move the conversation along. Is anybody that hasn't spoke wants to speak? Councilmember Florescale.
Thank you. So I think to start off, I've spoken to both police departments in New Braunfels and in College Station. Neither one of them had EOC help build their buildings. They had the police department, and then I think they also inquired with their dispatch. But all that aside, I think if anyone has ever taken the time to go to the dispatch center and speak to Kassie and to the dispatchers and hear their story regarding how they had to work last, or maybe this February, you wouldn't hesitate 1 second to vote to at least start a plan or reserve some rooms or whatever it is that Rizo is Councilmember Robert Rizo is asking. So I actually saw footage from the dispatch center, and there was water all in it, and they ended up going to a hotel for a couple days. And if you think not having the right building here is inconvenient, imagine how those dispatch workers felt working from like a hotel or on the floor on a cot. And mind you, it couldn't be on the floor on the cot the whole time because it was rained out. They had nowhere to work. So I don't think it's irresponsible, nor do I think it's premature that as a city that we plan for something like this yesterday. I was a big on the idea of having these plans unchanged. And of course, it didn't turn out that way, but the reason why I looked into that was because these buildings, public safety center buildings, not just police departments, are set up in a very specific way. I don't think it's a way that anybody sitting on this council quite understands. So since...
Please just speak for yourself. Thank you.
Okay, well, if somebody else here is qualified to tell the city how a building such as a public safety center is built, then I stand corrected. It is not to my knowledge that anybody on this dais quite understands that kind of architecture, or maybe they would be doing the job themselves. All that aside, I really feel like our dispatch and people who are first responders, whoever they may be, should have a place to go in case they're out from where they're at. And most importantly for me, the dispatch. Like Rizo said, we are not planning on bringing them back. This is going to be in an emergency. And do we have to use that just for dispatch? No, we can use it for other emergency situations. So I'm all for this just because I would like to see it here eventually. Maybe not today, but as we've stated numerous times, this is a building we are going to grow into. This is a building for the next 20 years. So if we at any time feel like we're going to bring our dispatch back, or if we feel like we want them to have a secure place to work in the event of another major catastrophe, then we should be planning for that today, and not when we get an EOC who I'm unaware of had anything to do with any of the other two buildings that I've heavily researched in either College Station or New Braunfels.
All right, further discussion. Just to re-summarize, my thinking is not to say that we shouldn't make sure that we've got the wiring capable so that at some future time we could pursue dispatch. The reality is that a state-of-the-art EOC is a vital way that the city of Kyle can provide in an emergency. Dispatch currently has 1,200 square feet. It can be debatable about the incident that took place. There were many facilities who were down and struggling during that time. But an emergency operations center was the most important thing that we needed at that point in time to make sure we were channeling information across a multitude of departments. So that's really my commentary, is just as it relates to making sure that we don't reduce what that purpose is in order to try to make it a dispatch when we already have a dispatch set up for that. So it's really it's not about trying to not bring dispatch back. It's about trying to preserve the rest of our ability, it's about trying to preserve our ability to address an issue that we currently have, which is that we don't have a good facility that's properly, that has the technology to help us handle in one spot all the different problems and emergencies that a city can face. And that's just, those two concepts are different. Dispatch is one thing, and being able to respond in emergencies and or monitor, during an emergency or throughout this, 365 days a year is something that personally I think that we should be aspiring to achieve with this facility. So my one question actually that's technical is just, are we bringing the necessary fiber and infrastructure to the building itself through the slab and up into the building, regardless of where it might go in the future. Matt, you might know the answer to that. Chief, do you know the answer?
I do, Mayor. And for the record, Jeff Barnett, Chief of Police. To that question, I'll be bringing you an item probably in January is when we'll be coming back to just make certain that we have nailed down exactly the rooms to which we want pre-wired for maybe for the dispatch section. Let's think about that part. The IT component that's really related to the EOC and stuff, that is going to take place already. But I just want you to know, in a month or so, you'll see from me an item on the agenda that we'll need to approve with our contract with LCRA. They're the provider of a lot of that equipment. So at some point, we'll need to designate it's this room, and this room, or pick from the three, however you want to do it. But that's just to approve the payment portion that we'll need for LCRA. All the rest of the data and everything else, we're very clear. We want to make sure that we're using technology to the best. It's been mentioned numerous times, and we're prepared, and that's taking place. I want you to understand about the LCRA contract that'll come back in a few weeks. Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So, Chief, the current EOC area that's being proposed, are you saying that that'll be wired correctly? Not only for the functions of an EOC, but for the functions of a possible ROC, a real-time operations center, something that you have been a proponent of and looking at the future of our policing. I would like to see our EOC exist in a way that could also function as an ROC or in many different factors. So I think you are correct, Councilman Rizo, in preparing for that. But we also are preparing for that exact scenario you said, which is why we have the dispatch in that area that we identified earlier. And it is bigger than the current dispatch that we are using right now as far as personnel spots. So it also has some room for growth, but yes, not total build out. But I do not want to see us lose the opportunity for a well-functioning EOC or really a well-functioning ROC. And the ROCs are where this department needs to be looking at very closely. And you can talk to Chief about that as well. And I know you know what that is, Councilmember Rizzo. But I would like to make sure that that is hardwired correctly. I know that was one of the areas that we were going to go over and talk about. And then how much crossover is there to turn that into whatever we want at whatever time. But I would hate for us to get ahead of ourselves and wire it in a way that it cannot be used from an EOC or an ROC standpoint.
The short answer is yes, sir. That's what we're planning to do, is to have it pre-wired just as you described.
Okay.
And how hard of a transition would be as we grow as a department? I'm not saying take the EOC out, but what if we, as we're growing as a city and we're allocating more of that building for our police department, how hard would the wiring of a dispatch up there be? Would it be pretty easy, or is it going to be harder? That's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at just in one spot. I'm saying let's look at the building as a whole and try to identify a place we could bring back our dispatch in the future. Not now, unless there's an emergency, but in the future, is there a place in that building we can identify to bring our dispatch back to? That's what I'm kind of wondering on the wiring for that.
Yes, sir. What I think you're going to see us recommend, and I'm speaking about a month prematurely, but what I think you're going to see us recommend is that we identify 3 locations. We already have those in our minds, but let me see the quotes and see how that comes back. That we identify 3 locations that we contract with LCRA to provide the appropriate wiring for a future dispatch center. Now, during the construction phase is the time to do that, so that it gives people many years beyond us the opportunity to make those decisions when the time comes. Certainly, you'll have the opportunity to choose from those 3 or even others if you choose, but we think we've identified the 3 most likely areas. And certainly, you can choose 1, 2, or 3 and mix them up however you want to. That's what we plan to bring back in January, and that should last the police department 20 years into the future.
That's exactly what I'm looking for, is just for us to be able to have that conversation and look at the building as a whole and see what we can do as a city to save us some money as well. You know, when we pre-wire stuff in construction, that's going to help mitigate some of the costs later, you know, so that alleviate some of the burden on the taxpayer, but I'm not trying to take anything away. I'm looking at what we can do in the future to be ready. And that's kind of what I was looking at too. So Chief, I really appreciate your explanation on that.
Yes, sir.
And I look forward to working, the council looks forward to working with you and whoever it is as well to identify those areas. So thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
All right. Good to move forward? All right. Next up, agenda item number 29, discussion of possible action on the city's bar hours of operation during the holidays. Councilman Rizo.
Yeah, this came forward. I had a local bar owner approach me and asked that we extend the bar hours on Thursdays during the holidays. I told him I would bring this forward and let council have discussion on it. And this would be for the month of December. I believe he also talked about extending bar hours during holidays that fell during the week. I think the next holiday that falls during the week would be a New Year's, and that would be in 3 years, I believe, is what I'm thinking. So I don't know if this is really something we need to look at, but I told him I would bring it forward and we'd have a discussion about it. But this is just about a bar owner in the area asking for extended hours on Thursdays during the holidays. I know we've got an ordinance in place, and I don't know if it's council's will to make an amendment, but I did promise the bar owner I'd bring it forward.
All right. Thank you. Does anybody have any discussion on the item? Councilmember Flores-Cal.
Thank you. I don't have a true interest in prolonging these hours, and I just say that because when speaking to the residents that live downtown and the surrounding areas, it's always the same complaint, which is even now that there is a limit, it's still loud and it's still disturbing. And so as much as I want to celebrate holidays like everyone else, there's no way I can support something like this because I would just have a really hard time explaining it to the residents unless somebody else kind of convinced me to do otherwise. I just find it hard to vote on something like this.
Anyone else? All right, I'm not seeing a whole lot of interest.
Yep, I'm not either, so.
All right, we're just going to move on
Move
then.
on.
All right.
Thank you.
Next up, agenda item number 30, discussion and update traffic patterns, pedestrian safety concerned, update on speed study FM 150 to include possible future studies east of Kyle. Councilmember Tobias.
Okay, it's been a long night, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm going to get through this real quick. Okay, for the record, and for everybody on DICE, I'm letting everybody know that myself and another council member had a meeting with city staff. We actually had 2 meetings with city staff, so that way everybody's aware. So a meeting was held on Wednesday, November 3rd, with Jerry Hendricks, Chief Barnett, Councilmember Flores-Cal, and I, about the Ranch Road 150 accident and safety discussions, okay? The discussion at the time was based on the recent vehicle accidents involving motorcycles off of that area near Lehman. During this period, other accidents around the city were happening more frequently east and west of Kyle, including construction zones on service roads and on highway entrances, from what I heard from KPD. The day before, I actually rode up on an accident on Seton Parkway and observed a overturned vehicle. So my conversation was getting an understanding of 4 possible traffic situations that we're seeing around Kyle. Is it the current infrastructure layout, right-of-way, signages, the need for or lack of signals? Is it speed limits that are currently in place around the city? Are they outdated? Councilor Rizo also brought this up too. The increase of vehicles on the roadway, including heavy trucks, 18-wheelers in areas around town that are preventing traffic from moving more efficiently or overall slowing down traffic? Or is it the overall driver behavior, driver impatience, speeding, distraction, lack of attention while driving, or is it cell phone usage while driving? And I believe that Chief Barnett said it's a combination of all 4 combined together. So the second meeting was held again on Wednesday, November 17th, with myself and Councilmember Flores-Cal, with city staff, Scott Sellers, Leon, Barba, Harper, Chief Barnett, and also TxDOT personnel Adam Korinsky, and other staff members. This was to see the need for a traffic study off of Ranch Road 150. The goal was to receive real-time data gathering information on current speeds, vehicle volume in critical areas around Simon Middle School, Tobias Elementary, and nearby subdivisions. The conversations was also brought up under the safety concerns for the lack of visibility at night on Ranch Road 150 right in that area. Now, the safety concerns were also brought up during that meeting in referencing to Daisy Lane and Beebe Road. Emails sent from me from concerned residents for the lack of visibility at night on the pedestrian bridge, lack of lighted crosswalk signage, walking, jogging paths around the hospital, Elementary School of Science Hall, and nearby neighborhoods. Traffic speed on Daisy Lane has been observed by many as a huge problem. These safety concerns were brought up as more traffic collisions are happening frequently at the Kensington Trail subdivision's entrance at Daisy. So in my mind, this leads to what we should do as far as the direction. As we discuss new engineering on future road projects, we need to aggressively look 15 to 20 years from now. Ideas that we could strongly consider is designing roadways that have open visibility and safe turning lanes, improving our current Uber program, supporting our trail system for walkability, and introducing, and this is a big stretch here, introducing the idea of a mass transportation program that could eventually lead to our first ever citywide bus system. So ladies and gentlemen on the dais, it won't be long before one day we wake up and our city is about 70,000, 80,000 strong. It is imperative as council, it is our responsibility to work with our current city administration to assist and direct them to design and help facilitate, build effective roadways, sidewalks, traffic intersections, and serious consideration for funding, implementing a possible public transportation system for our residents. And lastly, for our residents of Kyle, the holidays are fast approaching. More and more of you will be traveling in and around the city and on the highways. Please drive safely, give yourself that extra time, and be safe and be patient with one another on the roadways. So with that, we might have some good news referencing the final data from the Ranch Road 150 highway study. I don't have my email, Mr. Sellers, about what we might be looking at.
Yeah,
as an
Councilmember
improvement.
Tobias and council will have an item that we'll bring forward here, hopefully in the next couple of months from TxDOT, where they have agreed to lower the speed limit in certain areas on 150 East and 150 West. So I did send that email out to you showing you those zones. I can pull it up if you'd like to see it, but in general, we'll be bringing those speed limits down to a much safer level for our citizenry.
Mayor.
Okay, Councilor Rizo.
Yeah, Scott, I know we talked about also putting in some lighted stop signs as well. Are we still looking into that on 150?
Stop signs?
Yeah, the lighted ones for what we've got up in, somebody said, for the intersection.
You're talking about advanced warning signs.
Advanced warning signs, I'm sorry. Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely, sorry about that. It's getting late, I'm sorry. Yeah, no.
You want to talk about a traffic
signs?
problem, put a stop
Yeah,
sign on
I'm
150.
thinking something-
That'll
yeah,
create
yeah.
one.
Westbound at the hill.
Real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in advance of the hill,
Yeah.
we'll be having an advance warning sign.
And will
We'll
those
also
be,
reducing the speed limit.
will those be
Right.
lit to warn you, or are they just?
Yeah, it'll be a
sign?
flashing beacon.
A flashing beacon,
Nice.
that's what I wanted to know.
Yes,
All
sir.
right, sounds good, sorry it's getting a little bit late.
Yeah, no problem.
That's okay. I know we're working on other things with regards to expanding 150 East as well. I mean,
Yeah.
you want to hit on that as well?
Yeah, our plan is to bring back a design engineer proposal for the widening of 150 East. In fact, we have a engineer identified on our rotation list. They've already been looking at some of the areas, but we want to get 30% PER, or preliminary engineering report, so that we can make a request through the next Campo call for funding for the widening project.
And
candidate.
we've also looked at the widths as well. I know the county had talked about it not being wide enough to be expanded, but we went back and we had some conversations with the county, and were able to identify the widths that would be able to, we could expand the roadways there as well. So I think we've had some good talks there as well. So
We're hoping to partner with Hays County, absolutely.
Definitely.
So TxDOT, Hays County, City of Kyle would be tri-applicants to that Campo request.
Councilmember Flores Kale.
Thank you. The meeting was really interesting, and I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was just going to be like a group of three of us getting together. And when I say three of us, I mean like me. I thought Tobias and then Scott. And when I walked in, it was a whole plethora of people there, to include TxDOT. And I want to say thank you to TxDOT and to Willie, because they were not only informative, but they were really helpful, and they moved quick. 150 is a scary, scary road. The reason why we brought this up was because there was 2 accidents probably within a week. One was a fatality, and then the other one was, I think, a motorcycle as well, which I'm sure could have been a fatality, but luckily it wasn't. It's a dangerous road, and the lack of lights and the lack of walkability makes it even more dangerous. And so I was really appreciative that we all were able to come together that day and like have some real solutions. I was impressed. Scott was very quick to the draw, and so we were like, hey, what are we gonna do about lights? Because, we're gonna widen these roads. And he said, well, this is what we'll do. And so I'm for lights anywhere in the city where anybody needs them, east, west, north, south. I think the city needs more lights for sure. And so getting started on that is exciting. So thank you to TxDOT. Thank you to everybody that was there. Leon was there. There was people there that I was like, who's that? So thank you to everybody, because it made this a much easier experience than I think sometimes it is. So.
Anyone else?
Oh, no, if it looks like we're on board with TxDOT to do more studies in east, and if it includes west, by all means, let's see what they can do to help us out overall. We can go from there.
All right, thank you. Okay. Next up is executive session. I do not know which items we're, so I'm gonna actually let you read it into the record, Scott, if you don't mind, because you know which items to read out. And don't forget number 16. Do you mind doing that?
The whole thing? Sure.
Whatever page tells you to read, or you can have her read it.
No, I'll read it.
Y'all can work it together. All right, we're going to exec. Thank you.
All right. Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, City Council reserves the right to convene executive session from time to time as deemed necessary. During this meeting, Council may convene executive session pursuant to any lawful exception contained in Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, including any of the following topics: Project Just Peachy, Project Fire Engine Red, Project Fresco, Project Black Coral, Project Goldfish, Honeywell Agreement, Downtown PUD, Limestone Creek PID, Center Street Village, NBFR Development, VRR, and item number 21.
We've got all the different numbers. Hang on, Scott. 23. It's 23. Yeah, it is 23. I've got it written.
21 and 23, both.
No, we voted on 21.
Yeah, we can still talk about it. There you go.
All right. Meeting back to order. There was no action taken during executive session. There will be no action taken now. We do need to bring back up agenda item number 23, agreement for Public Improvement District and Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Creation and Administration Services with P3 Works. Ms. Sines, do you have anything to add to what we were presented? Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Sines on this? Motions?
Motion to approve, Mayor. Consent agenda, agenda item 23.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Rizo, seconded by Councilmember Tobias. So we approve item number 23. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Good meeting, everyone.